Please welcome SOAR Executive Board Member and Senior Pastor of the First Baptist Church in Somerset, Dr. French Harmon, for the opening prayer.
Would you please stand? At this time, we'd like to ask for a moment of silence as our country has lost a great American, a hero, and a patriot. The Executive Board of SOAR would like to honor the legacy and memory of John McCain. Would you please pause? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the tremendous efforts of John McCain, both as a hero in military and a leader in the civilian fights and the amazing work in Congress. We ask a blessing on this day to the McCain family as they travel to Washington and go through the ceremony, and later this weekend lay Senator McCain to rest. We ask comfort and blessings upon this family and all those who mourn his passing. And as we begin this summit here in Pikeville today, what a wonderful day it is. We thank you for the scriptures that remind us that they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not be weary, and they will walk and not faint. And as we have come together from all places in the mountains, we ask a blessing upon the work here. We pray that today all the speakers and all those who've gathered will feel your very presence. Would you please smile on this occasion that brings us together? And thank you for the leaders that have brought this event to our attention. We thank you for the bipartisan efforts of Governors Beshear and Bevin. And we thank you for the outstanding leadership of Governor Paul Patton, and of course, our dear friend and Congressman Hal Rogers. Thank you for his hope and dreams he has for these mountains and the people of Eastern Kentucky. We pray now that you would continue to give wisdom. You told us in scriptures that every good and perfect gift comes down from you, the Father of light, in whom there's no variableness nor shadow of turning. And we ask you would give us those gifts that we so desperately need. Give us hope, peace, and love. And Lord, when we encounter problems, help us to know that you are greater than our problems, and you will help those who call upon your name. So bless this day and all the efforts of all the people that have brought us today. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
When settlers first nestled in the mountains of Appalachia, a debate began at kitchen tables between husbands and wives. Should we go or stay? Decades later, in Washington, D.C., in the Oval Office, and on the Hill in the chambers of Congress, in popular literature, in countless studies, and in national news, the debate continues. What will become of Appalachia, Kentucky? One remedy suggests that the best way to help them may be to help them leave. We, who remain in Appalachia, Kentucky, stand on the shoulders of great leaders who have left a positive impact on the region. We are blessed to stand on a strong foundation that is built to support the future of a region poised to cradle many generations to come. For you, who breathe life into these mountains, who let your roots run deep into the soil of growing, thriving communities, who start families, businesses, and new beginnings in Eastern Kentucky, the debate is over. We believe there is a future in Appalachia. We refuse to accept the risk of doing nothing. And that is why we are here. We have a plan, we have partners, and as you'll experience today, there's proof that it's working. In 2013, SOAR took flight, and we listened as passionate people identified challenges and shared opportunities. We heard, we learned. Then, thousands of people provided input, and together, we created a regional blueprint for a 21st century Appalachia in a transformative, unprecedented plan of action. We are part of a new narrative of Appalachia, Kentucky, and its success rests with us. It rests in our resolve. It rests in our God-given sense of place and family. It rests in our living rooms, in our hollows, in our churches, in our schools, and in our communities. Today, during the 2018 SOAR Summit, be inspired by the evidence that there is a future in Appalachia.
Jared Arnett, Executive Director of SOAR.
Good morning. Y'all excited to be here? Somebody said last night at the reception, I think people are having fun at the SOAR Summit. We had about 400 people here last night. The Kentucky Opry did a fantastic job. CMH 23 sponsored that. All the entertainment yesterday and today sponsored by CMH 23. If you're saying, well, what's that? They've got a booth. Go check them out. They're doing some creative things. So we appreciate them. We got a great day lined up for you today. I want to say, I think SOAR, I felt this last night, is becoming more and more like a family. I believe people were genuinely excited to see each other yesterday and last night, and I believe we're ignoring the critics. And hey, who's up for that? And we are committed to be in the arena, literally, figuratively. We are fighting the good fight for the future of this region. And when I say we, I don't just mean Jared and the staff at SOAR. I mean people all over this region, mayors, business owners, state agencies, federal agencies. Today is about the proof that what started 5 years ago is actually working. I'll say this morning that 5 years on, progress is evident, that lives are being changed, and we're going to show that this morning. I want to thank just a few people. We got a lot of state legislators here with us. If you're a state legislator, please stand up. Let us just stand up. I know they're here across. Give them a big hand. We thank them for being here. Thank you all. And we got some local elected officials. If you're a commissioner, magistrate, mayor, county judge, executive, if you're here representing your community, would you please stand up? I know they're here all across the room. Thank you all for the work that you do. Thank you for being here. And we're just excited about today. I talked a lot yesterday. I'm going to talk a lot less today. And some people said thank you. A couple of housekeeping things. So this morning we're going to run till lunch. At lunch, the booths will be open back up. If you've not got a chance to go see those, we want you to do that. Experience the future of Appalachia. We got some SOAR Summit t-shirts for sale over at our booth on the side here, and I think we'll have some at registration as well. They're $10. Some of you pre-ordered. If you didn't, we have extra. You can get your size today. Pick those up. After this morning session, we've got a networking lounge set up on the second floor beside the ballroom. Just a place if you want to get away and want to have a meeting and some snacks and drinks. Up there is the place to do it. So we're going to get started this morning. I'm going to introduce our next speaker. 2 weeks ago, our executive board of SOAR, just an FYI, SOAR is a nonprofit. We are not a state agency. We are a team of people and community leaders who are just trying to do good. And two weeks ago, our board met and elected a chairman of the executive board. Governor and congressman will continue to be principals of our organization, engaged in our work and supporting this effort. And they have two of their great staff members, Secretary Scott Brinkman for the governor, Karen Kelly for Congressman Rogers, engaged in our work. But we elected a chair from the region. And I think it's such a powerful testament to the vision from the beginning that we all know that for this future, for this work to be successful, it's got to be owned and led and driven by people from within the region. And I'm thankful for the leadership that believes in that. And we should all be thankful for the leadership that believes in that. So we're going to start this morning. I'm going to invite an attorney from Ashland. She is the partner at Van Antwerp Attorneys. She was a founding executive board member for SOAR. She's been here since it started, kind of an anchor, a foundation that been through all the ups and downs and the ins and outs, knows our work, believes in our work. And I think that's one of the most important things that we can leave here with is the right attitude. And Kim is somebody that has that. So would you please join me in welcoming to the stage Kim McCann from Ashland, Kentucky.
Good morning and welcome to everyone. And Jared, thank you for your kind comments. As chair of the executive committee for SOAR, I would like to welcome you to be here at the summit. You know, the summit is about you. Without you, there would be no summit, and without you, there would be no SOAR. When SOAR began, we knew the process would not be overnight. We knew some good things could happen quickly, but it was going to be a long process. It reminds me of an old proverb that says, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. SOAR is that tree. We've planted the tree. We've got to love on the tree, cultivate the tree, fertilize it, and do our work. It will take time for fruit to bear, but with our perseverance, that can happen. We need leadership, we need positive thinking, we need innovation, and we need collaboration. And I believe that we have that. We have a wonderful team that's been led by great leaders with the governor and Congressman Rogers, and now it's up to us to take it to the next level. I commit to all of you that as chairman of SOAR, that I will do my very best to try to lead us in a direction that brings our entire region together. From my first SOAR Summit, what I saw was we needed to work more cohesively because we can do so much together that we can never do alone. So I ask all of you to please stay committed with me to lead SOAR on to bigger and greater things. And let's grow our tree so the fruit is more bountiful from year to year. With that, I have to say that sometimes in life you're lucky, and I think I have been very lucky to have met our first speaker for the night. He's a true statesman and a Southern gentleman. He was born in rural Kentucky. His undergraduate degree is from Western Kentucky University, his law degree from the University of Kentucky, and he also served in the National Guard. In 1980, he was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, where he has served the 5th District with great pride. He now is in his 19th term. He chaired the Appropriation Committee in Washington. He also, in 2003, was appointed to the newly founded Subcommittee on Homeland Security. Congressman Hal Rogers is known as a strong negotiator and supportive of Appalachia. He focuses on economic development, job creation, fighting illegal drugs, and most of all, preserving Appalachia. I am proud to call my congressman also my friend. Help me welcome Hal Rogers to the podium.
Oh, wow. Wow. Wow, thank you. Thank you very much. Kim, thank you for the nice introduction. Welcome, friends, to the 5th anniversary of SOAR. You've been with us from the very beginning. We've seen progress being made. We're seeing the occupation around the region of what I lovingly call Silicon Holler. And if you really want to see what's going on in your neighborhood, visit these booths that have been set up by companies and outfits that are now located in our region, most of them. And you can take a sense of pride with you. My chest swells when I see some of the incredible technologies that are now beginning to occupy our place and hire our people. And that's the reason that SOAR exists, as a matter of fact. I want to thank Kim, the new chairwoman of the executive board. She's been a part of SOAR from the very beginning and has been a source of inspiration to a lot of us and a source of great information to the executive board all the way along. She'll be a great chairman, and she's going to be a leader that I think you will want to follow. She's been with us from the very beginning, and during these 5 years of SOAR, she's been with us in every step of the way. I believe the innovative leadership that she will bring to this cause, you will really like and enjoy. She's joined by 6 new executive board members, and I'm going to ask them to stand as I call their name and stay standing until we finish. This is the executive board members. Excuse me. Chuck Sexton from 1 East Kentucky. Where are you? Holler. Where are you? Over here. Where is he? I don't believe he's here. Yeah, thank you, Chuck. And Andrew Scott, the mayor of Coal Run here in Pike County. Dan Mosley, the Harlan County Judge Executive, right over here. Stay standing so we can see you. Dr. French Harmon, my pastor, First Baptist Church in Somerset, and a professor for online courses at the University of the Cumberlands. Nate Haney from Brady Industries. Where are you, Nate? Holler. Yeah, thank you. Lynn Tipton, a paralegal from Corbin who works across the region. Where is she? Yes, thank you. Those are our new board members. Now, they joined holdover members who were elected earlier for a term. Gene Hale from Community Trust Bank. Gene. Jim Host, who retired from Host Communications. And Donovan Blackburn, the CEO of Pikeville Medical Center. Along with ex officio members, Kentucky Senate President Robert Stivers, House Speaker David Osborne, Magoffin County Judge Executive Charles Doc Harden, and Bell County Judge Executive Albie Brock. These are the members of your executive board. Thank you for serving. Fifth anniversary of SOAR. I couldn't be more proud of the great strides that we've seen over these last 5 years. These projects and events are taking place in practically every county. Some of them are not big news outside the home county, so you probably don't hear about some of those. But believe me, in practically every county, there's something that SOAR is doing or has done that makes a difference, that keeps Kentuckians, Eastern Kentuckians in Eastern Kentucky. And that's the ambition of this organization. Governor Bevin and I are to be joined by such a stellar group of advocates who believe the future of Eastern Kentucky can and will be reinvented by the people in this room. Think of the opportunity and the rare time and the rare event that has placed you and me in this spot. We represent almost half the state geographically. We represent all of East Kentucky, and we all know that we're going through a severe economic change, and your hands are on the steering wheel. Your mind is to be tapped by the region, who is looking to you and me and all of us to steer through a choppy sea. That's a rarity. And very few people in this country, or indeed the world, have the opportunity to really change history and to bring about positive things in every person's life that lives or is from this region. This is a great opportunity. Was it Winston Churchill that said, "A pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty." Now, we have an opportunity that's almost the rarest thing you'll ever see. We have a chance to make things better in your community and in your beloved region. You have a chance. The board of directors of this organization feel a heavy responsibility because they realize that this is our big one and only chance to make things better for an entire region. And I'm hopeful that one of these days, the state newspapers will start paying attention to the good things that you're doing. Any solution to the challenges we face will be the product of us, our entrepreneurs, our community leaders, our savvy businessmen and women, and our talented young people, our educators especially. If we could just keep at home in our region one generation of these terrific graduates from our high schools, if we could just keep them one generation here, we'd revolutionize Eastern Kentucky. And that's the goal of SOAR, is to keep our beautiful young people here in the region, to reinvest in the region that nurtured them in their education. You are the modern-day miracle workers who are casting a wide net of hope across our stalled coal mining region, which geographically makes us nearly half of the state. Coal will continue to be an important part of our Appalachian heritage, our energy portfolio, and our future. But As we sift through the aftermath of the war on coal, we must continue our efforts to breathe life back into the rich ingenuity of Eastern Kentuckians and provide a platform to launch innovative opportunities for our former coal miners and for the next generation. It's time to remove the plywood boards from our windows downtown and bring our hometowns back to life. In fact, later today, you'll hear from some of our own leaders who have brought dilapidated storefronts back to life and created hundreds of jobs on Main Street. Several federal leaders are with us today to share how they are investing in your work and our future, like USDA Rural Development Assistant Secretary Ann Hazlitt and Tim Thomas, the federal co-chair of the Appalachian Regional Commission, upon whose shoulders we have climbed year in and year out in our district. You'll also hear from Major General Vinnie Bowles, a highly decorated veteran of the Army whose leadership was battle-tested in the wake of 9/11. His message is exactly what we need to help us through tough circumstances here at home. In fact, 5 years ago, Eastern Kentucky was facing a very uncertain future. We had lost some 12,000 coal mining jobs, good jobs, and backtracked 118 years in employment in our Kentucky coal mines. But the people of Eastern Kentucky never ceased to amaze me. In the middle of a blizzard, in December of 13, 1,200 of you showed up right here in the Expo Center, ready to roll up your sleeves and fire up the midnight oil. You braved a blizzard to get here, and you stayed the entire day. There was as many of you at 5 p.m. as there was at 9 a.m. Most of you, I think, were there at that time. How many of you were there 5 years ago? Raise your hand. Great. And we're joined by people who are experiencing that same excitement that we saw in the hope that SOAR was producing 5 years ago as we started. SOAR is more than an organization or a movement. SOAR is an attitude. An attitude, it's a feeling of, yes, we can do this. And we are doing this. Creating jobs, revitalizing tourism, diversifying our economy, improving access to health care, giving our students and our teachers more innovative opportunities, and more importantly, we're doing it together across county lines and across party lines. And I have to specifically brag on our former coal miners for proving how talented and dedicated they are. We have dozens of former miners who've been retrained and are now working in high-tech manufacturing. I've heard from dozens more who are taking classes to further their education in other fields. Some are now mining digital code, creating mobile apps and websites for various companies. In fact, SOAR's website was designed by former coal miners. They're not mining coal, they're mining code. The truth is, we can't locate enough factories fast enough for all of us, all of our coal miners, laid off coal miners, and others looking for work in our region. For every one of those 12,000 coal mining jobs we lost, experts estimate we lost 3 times more in coal-related jobs, mechanics, truck drivers, mom and pop grocery stores, furniture stores, and so forth that had to close. But in 2017, the tech industry in this country added nearly 200,000 jobs across the country. And there's no reason why we can't bring more of those jobs to Silicon Holler. And that's why we need the Kentucky Wired project, the high-speed, high-capacity cable that is a baby born by the SOAR organization 5 years ago, to finish that project, to bring, in essence, the new interstate highways of our economy these days. That project is key to the future of our region. I think they're the interstate highways of today's world that we have to have. Kentucky currently ranks 47th in the country for connectivity by cable, but Kentucky Wired will stretch 3,000 miles of fiber optic cable to connect every county in our state, catapulting us from 47th to number one. To number one. Broadband is a forum for the future. It's a place where we can utilize our intellectual firepower to generate new opportunities and attract new high-tech industry. And we've seen that beginning to take place in various parts of our region. People working at home, hooked up to the internet, reaching worldwide from here. Hopefully, we won't have to move to Detroit or Cincinnati or Muncie, Indiana, or wherever. Hopefully, we're going to end that so that our people can do that work here and invest their talents in our region while they make a living off of the internet. Expanding broadband connectivity was one of the first ideas generated by SOAR during that first summit 5 years ago. It's now the state's largest public works project ever. We have a unique opportunity in this venue to reimagine our future and develop a 21st century Appalachia and build Silicon Holler. It's up to us to prepare. It's up to us to create, up to us to anticipate and try to see the future with bold, daring, smart, visionary ideas. You can do this. I've seen you do it in other activities. This is something we can do and something we must do and something that we will do. We already have a good formula for success. We have the strongest work ethic in the country. I hear that every day from people that employ people in our district that have plants around the country. They tell me that the work ethic of Eastern Kentuckians is the best in the nation. You know why? The reason for it is we don't want to move to Muncie, Indiana. We want to work at home, and we'll work hard to please you. And we'll work for competitive wage rates. So we have the work ethic, we have the surplus of workers who will work at a competitive wage rate. All we need now is the infrastructure, the highway, if you will, to give them the opportunity, and that's the broadband cable. With the addition of broadband and the capability of being competitive, our days of being limited and confined by geography or terrain will be eliminated. We'll jump right across these hills with the internet cable. The only limit to our success, there is a limit. You know what the limit is? your ideas. This is a whole new world that we're dealing with here. And it's going to take us thinking and imagining and foreseeing and predicting locally and regionally how we can utilize this cable. I have faith and confidence that you will come through. You always do. But you got to work at it. When people ask you what SOAR has done for Eastern Kentucky, tell them some of the incredible stories that you will hear about today. I think you'll be very proud to see some of the very first fruits of your labor on display during this conference behind these drapes here. We're making progress, and we're doing it one project at a time in your communities. So without further ado, let me personally welcome you to the 5th Summit. We love the work that you're doing. We love your love of Eastern Kentucky. And together, we're going to make some great things happen. Just watch. Thank you.
We're the telephone, broadband, TV provider for Jackson and Alsea County, and we saw back in the mid-2000s, about 2005 or 6, that the fiber or the copper infrastructure that we had, and we had coax for our cable TV business, was just not going to do the job, not only for the present but for the future. The speeds that people were demanding for their internet and the demands of high definition TV and things like that on the TV side, our network just couldn't support it. So we thought, okay, we've heard about fiber to the home. There was another company in Kentucky doing it, and we thought we would try it. Turned out to be a big investment, or probably one of the best investments for our company and our communities that we've ever made.
PRTC's internet has been a long time idea among our action team members. We've looked at ways that we could use this great asset in this community to bring some economic development here. And so when SOAR had a card grant, I applied for that, never dreaming we would get it. It was just a real community effort. Everybody came together, but without the SOAR card grant, without EKSEP and People's Rural Telephone stepping in, helping us get all the equipment, the wiring, and Jackson Energy, they were really important also, assisted with the startup of the Teleworks Hub.
Yeah, we were beginning to see how important this network was and how much better it was than even the bigger cities around us.
Teleworks USA is an initiative of Eastern Kentucky SEP that seeks to find people and upskill them in Eastern Kentucky within the service region that we have and prepare them to be paired with and apply for jobs with companies all over the nation and even the globe to be able to work remotely from here within Eastern Kentucky. Well, Teleworks hubs started pretty small several years ago with one, really as a co-work space. It was a place for people with inadequate internet access at their homes to be able to come in our facility that we stock with computers and telephones and good internet access and work remotely for these companies across the country. It's grown exponentially since then. Now we have 8 Teleworks hubs, but the mission, part of that mission that I just said, is still the same, in that we use those as co-work spaces. But the more important thing that happens in our Teleworks hubs is that we have managers there who are all expertly trained to be able to get people ready to become the best remote workers that they can.
About 3 years ago, my boyfriend actually got diagnosed with brain cancer, so he is now epileptic. I was still trying to work a brick and mortar job, and we would have to find, family members to stay with him so he wouldn't get sick, have a seizure and nobody be there. One day I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw an ad for Teleworks to work from home. And I'm like, I won't have to get family members to stay. I can work. If he's to get sick, I'll be there in a second. And that way, we save money in that sense. Within a week, I heard about a job, and then within about 2 weeks, I had the job, and I started a month later. With this virtual world that I work in now, I have so many opportunities for promotions, careers. It's not just a job, it's an actual career. Within the year and a half that I've been here, I've been promoted 3-4 times. And who really gets that done in a brick and mortar job? I mean, it's unreal of all the different advantages and opportunities that I have just from my home office.
I have 2 kids. And I've always worked in customer service, but everything that I've done it's a pretty far drive. The pay was pretty good. The hours were kind of just, scattered around, so they wasn't really balanced. Now I work for Kelly Connect, and I have full-time, I've got benefits, I've got paid vacation, I mean just so many things that I'm now able to provide to my kids. And being able to be at home with my kids and not have to leave 2 hours early or, not get home till 9 or 10 o'clock, because I have that hour-and-a-half drive sometimes. So being able to get off the phones and then just open my door and mom's home, you get emotional talking about it, but that is the biggest reward. And I think that any parent can tell you that would be amazing to do.
My whole career, we've been looking at Eastern Kentucky and trying to figure out how we're going to get all these people jobs. We're reframing that whole narrative because of what's going on in technology. Now we're saying things like, how are we going to fill all of these jobs?
Kel Turner, the judge executive in Owsley County, gave a very heartfelt speech in front of the whole group on the first day of this 4-day encounter and really hit home for them, just basically telling them, he's the leader of the county in a place with a population of less than 4,000 people. And there are people that are actually relocating into his county for the first time in decades in order to take advantage of the great internet that they have there through PRTC and work remotely.
I cannot imagine when I was a teenager, a young person, that I could have got a job of working out of my home. I mean, that just would have been so far-fetched back in those days. And the thing is, when it happened, our goal was, the first year our goal was to have 50 jobs. Now we're getting close to the 2-year mark, and we're not far from 200.
I think it's a misconception that people in this area aren't as smart as capable as. I think having the Teleworks Hub here and having access to these global companies gives people an opportunity to show that Eastern Kentucky, Owsley County, Kentucky, has well-qualified individuals who can contribute to the country.
In the time that we live in and where the workforce is today and the transition, the disruption that technology is bringing, is created a level playing field for workers in Eastern Kentucky that have never existed before.
How about a big hand for Teleworks USA, EKSEP, People's Rural Telephone, the Owsley County Action Team. So Owsley County Action Team, we're giving some innovation awards away today, sponsored by BB&T. We're giving them $1,000 today, just saying, that was awesome. You guys fought for it, local community, believing in what's possible, and started as an idea. And 2 years later, lives are changed. That's what this is all about. That's what all these booths are about. What we get excited about is knowing you're going to leave here today with an idea. And in 1 year and 2 years, we want it to be a booth. We want to see. We want you to take ownership of the idea. We want to help you make it a reality. So, big hand for Owsley County Action Team and Teleworks USA. That's one hub, by the way. They have, I'm going to misspeak here, 8 or 9 now, and more to come. So our next speaker, Ann Hazlett, is the Assistant to the Secretary for Rural Development, which really means She is responsible for the federal government's approach and mission on rural America. She is the lady. We're glad she's here because we have a vision to do rural development better than anybody in America. And their investments have made so much of our work possible. They have a mission, let me read this to you here, to create an environment for rural prosperity, from greater access to broadband connectivity and medical care to workforce training through distance learning. She is passionate. This is what she said. When you introduce me, just say, I love rural America. They've made some great investments, and if you stick around today, there might be more on the way. So join me in giving a big Eastern Kentucky welcome to Ann Hazlett.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for that warm welcome and this opportunity to be at this year's SOAR Summit. It is truly my honor to get to speak with you this morning and to offer some thoughts about opportunity in rural America, something that I'm deeply passionate about, and I sense that I share that passion with many of you here today. I'm also most grateful for this chance to hear from each of you and to hear more about the needs that you have here in Appalachian, Kentucky. This is my first time to the annual SOAR celebration. However, I have a long and deep appreciation for this region of the state and for the innovation and the strength that this unique network represents. I first learned about SOAR back in 2016 when I met a man named Jeff Hawkins, who many of you may know. Jeff serves as the executive director of the Kentucky Valley Education Cooperative, a nonprofit organization that serves 21 school districts across southeastern Kentucky. And when I think about all that Jeff has done, whether it's training high school students to build tiny houses or creating telehealth centers in each of the school districts that he serves, Jeff certainly knows a bit about innovation and the teamwork that it takes to make things happen. However, from that first day in our conversation, Jeff made one thing very clear to me that I've often thought about and certainly stands before me today. And that is that this is a region that is filled with people who know that the answers to their future do not come from the outside, they come from within. I think that's what today is all about. So as you come together this year to shape that future, I want you to know first that we stand as your partner to bring the vast and tremendous opportunity that exists in this region to life. We share your passion for the people, for the place, and for the heritage that this represents. We have great respect for the steadfast and the proactive leaders like Congressman Rogers, Governor Bevin, and our co-chairman of the ARC, Tim Thomas, that are driving transformational change in this region. And we look forward to what lies ahead with that innovation and collaboration as it continues to take hold. At Rural Development, the mission area of the Department of Agriculture that I lead, Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue has really focused us on one simple vision, and that is to facilitate prosperity and economic development in rural America, including places like the many small towns here in Eastern Kentucky. So as we strive to meet that charge each day, we are focused on three priorities: infrastructure, partnerships, and innovation. Let me start with infrastructure. Here, we believe simply that access to modern, robust infrastructure is a necessity for any community to thrive. No matter what zip code someone lives in or chooses to do business in, we know that infrastructure is a foundation for quality of life and economic opportunity. We also know that when we address many of the challenges in infrastructure across rural America, whether we're talking about needs like access to high-speed internet or quality health care, that many of the other challenges that we see in these places become much more manageable. From east to west, north to south, we know there is a tremendous need for infrastructure in rural America. Whether we're talking about modern utilities, or the transportation infrastructure that we need to move so many of the things that are made and grown in rural America to market, we have to set clear priorities. We also need new financing models to better leverage additional funding sources, bring new partners to the table, and better pair specific infrastructure projects with opportunities for economic investment. At present, we are currently tackling two specific infrastructure gaps in rural America. First, in our water program, we have a historic level of funding this year to invest with loan and grant dollars that are available to communities of 10,000 people or less. Well, put simply, we believe that safe and modern, reliable water systems are critical not only for the health and safety of people living in small towns, but also to the continued economic viability of these places. This year, we know that we can work together to have a big impact, and with these critical resources, we can dramatically improve the quality of life in a small town, and importantly, build a foundation for future economic attraction, whether it's food processing or energy or manufacturing. Beyond that opportunity that we have in water, we have really focused on another infrastructure lifeline, which we've already heard a bit about this morning, and that is that access to high-speed internet through broadband. Here, like many of you know firsthand, Secretary Perdue understands that this asset is as important for economic development and the future of a rural community as any other infrastructure in a small town, whether we're talking about roads, rail, or airports. In May, I got to see this firsthand in a trip to Clay County, Kentucky. I think like many other places in eastern Kentucky, Clay County is significantly challenged by difficult terrain and narrow winding roads. So with that limitation, economic opportunities have been difficult, which has really driven some of the local leaders to look for innovation to help people with employment. Solutions like training a customer service workforce that can work out of their homes versus commuting in a call center facility, much of the teleworks opportunity that was in the video preceding me. But of course, the reach of that opportunity hinges on access to high-speed internet and service that is reliable and affordable for the people living there. So to connect more communities in Clay County and beyond, we are really taking action on this issue on a number of fronts. First, we're driving greater collaboration between the many federal agencies that are involved in this issue, whether it's better coordination of policy or funding or other resources such as mapping of a region to know what exists in terms of service and outreach. We're also improving the management of our own programs at USDA. We have a number of programs that can help with this issue, but some of them are complex, and we're trying to make that application process more simple so that communities can access these resources more easily. And finally, we're really looking at innovation in the deployment of this infrastructure, both in terms of the technology and in terms of the partners who can help connect some of these forgotten places. I should mention earlier this year, we added a new tool to our toolbox, if you will, when Congressman Rogers and other rural leaders in Congress included $600 million in additional funding for a broadband pilot program in the 2018 spending bill. We are very excited about this program, this opportunity. It's certainly an additional infusion of resources that will help us connect more underserved areas, but quite frankly, it's more than new resources. There's some flexibility and this authority that will give us a unique opportunity to really innovate in how our funding is delivered and how we can better prioritize some of the most important needs in rural communities for e-connectivity, whether it's additional access to the internet for business, for healthcare, or for education. Beyond infrastructure, we're focused on building strong partnerships to create prosperity in rural America. Here, USDA has a long history of working alongside a wide range of interests, like many of you here today, to increase economic opportunity in rural communities. Working through our state directors like Hilda Legg, our dynamic leader here in Kentucky who joins me today, we want to continue to be a partner to all of you in this room to improve the quality of life and create wealth in rural places. Last year, Secretary Perdue chaired a task force on agriculture and rural prosperity. This brought together over 20 different federal agencies, all that have something to do with rural. They sat down and looked at many issues that are impacting rural prosperity, everything from quality of life to access to capital and economic development. They issued a series of specific recommendations for action, and much of their work has created a blueprint then for us at USDA. Today, we're moving ahead with implementing many of those recommendations, whether it's partnering with the Small Business Administration to help increase access to capital, or working with Health and Human Services and the Department of Justice to help communities better respond to the opioid crisis. And as that momentum builds, we're certainly looking forward to seeing more of those partnerships at the federal, state, and local level, both in the government and the private sectors. With that renewed focus on collaboration, USDA has taken an active role in forging new relationships to battle the opioid epidemic that is gripping so many rural communities here in Eastern Kentucky and far beyond. From other federal agencies like the ARC and local partners, farm and rural stakeholders, we are really coming together to better layer some of our existing resources, help facilitate the adoption of model practices, and build out new tools and initiatives that can help community leaders who are really on the front lines of this crisis win this battle. While we have so much work still to be done, I am truly energized by the steady flow of opportunities that I have seen to work with new interests as a result of this crisis. And I'm excited for what it means to beat this epidemic, but I'm equally excited about what this means for the delivery of other resources to tackle other challenges. Today is International Overdose Awareness Day, and I am thrilled to be able to share an exciting announcement with you that I believe is a mere glimpse into what is possible when partners who are passionate about the future of rural Kentucky unite against the darkness of this crisis to bring hope and new life. On this day, which raises awareness about the impact of drug overdose on families and communities, we are announcing that USDA is teaming up with the Isaiah House, which is a nonprofit organization here in Kentucky that assists men who are struggling with drugs and alcohol. We're going to be working with them to provide transition housing in Hart and Rockcastle counties. Under the agreement, essentially USDA will sell 2 of its foreclosure homes to Isaiah House at a discount. These are then properties which Isaiah House will rehab using the skills of its clients who are seeking job training as they move ahead from treatment into recovery and a fresh start. We know that partnership is truly at the heart of this opportunity, and with the need that exists for transition housing in so many rural communities that are impacted by this crisis, we are hopeful that this innovative model can be replicated in other parts of Kentucky and rural America. And finally, we are focused on innovation. We know that the challenges and the opportunities in rural America, Eastern Kentucky, are complex and they are constantly evolving. And so from that standpoint, rural communities need a proactive partner in the Department of Agriculture that can assist local leaders with new and fresh solutions. For many rural communities, we know that regulation can spell death for innovation. So with that reality, Secretary Perdue has really tasked us to leave no stone unturned and find new ways to remove red tape that is creating barriers to growth in rural communities. For example, next month we will launch a major rulemaking that will help consolidate and streamline the rules and the documents for many of our guaranteed lending programs into one common process. And by making things simple, we are empowering businesses and community leaders in rural communities to access capital, the capital that they need to grow and expand, thereby creating jobs and a renewed hope for the future. And finally, beyond regulatory relief and innovation, we are driving innovation through the creation of a Rural Development Innovation Center. Here, we have realigned some existing agency resources to establish a team that is devoted solely to partnership development, to regulatory reform, risk management, and data analysis. And they have a mission of coordinating resources and providing creative solutions. They're really designed to help hardwire innovation into how we deliver programs, which will then better enable us to serve our rural customer. such as the people living here in Eastern Kentucky. They've only been in operation now for almost a year now, and they are already working directly with rural leaders to tackle difficult but important issues such as access to capital, workforce, and capacity building for asset-based development. As I look at the Innovation Center's mission and potential for impact, I see many clear and uncanny parallels with the mission and objectives of SOAR. And so with that vision, I very much look forward to what I see as the flames of prosperity that will inevitably ignite from the synergy between SOAR and our innovation team. As I close, I want to leave you with a simple but powerful thought that was on my heart this morning as we woke up to come from Lexington. According to Webster's dictionary, the word soar means to rise above to a majestic stature. Again, to rise above to a majestic stature. And when I reflect on the heritage, the mountains, and most importantly, the people of this region, I see a future for Appalachian Kentucky that has no boundary and is truly defined only by the faith, by the grit, and the teamwork of each of you in this room. So as you leave today in fierce pursuit of that vision, I want you to know that at USDA, we stand with you as a partner in prosperity now and for generations to come. Thank you.
The reason I'm standing here today is because when I was getting ready to start law school at the University of Kentucky, I found out my mom, who was 42 at the time, had terminal lung cancer. Law school's a stressful time. The stress of that and the stress of losing my mom started an 8-year battle with alcoholism to where I almost drank myself to death. After I got sober, I felt a calling to start a recovery center for people like me here in Eastern Kentucky. And that led to the founding of Karen's Place here in Lawrence County at Yatesville Lake. And we opened that center in December 2010. And over the years, with no master plan of growth, we have slowly built a treatment organization now that extends literally all over Eastern Kentucky. And we're providing world-class holistic treatment in some of the most rural parts of central Appalachia. One of the things that was a challenge for us when we went into rural counties is having people to work in the addiction treatment field. Addiction treatment's really new in terms of being a part of our healthcare system. So there wasn't a lot of trained addiction workers. I was the product of a internship experience and someone mentoring me, so early on we realized the best place to get employees was through our clients coming through our programs. So we started an internship program, and I offered a challenge. If you'll spend 9 months with us, an intern, at the end, we will give you a job. And what we found was so many people hungry for a second chance to have a purpose that we started producing our own employees. Today we have 300 employees, 150 of them in recovery, and 100 are graduates of our programs. Just by divine connection, I believe, we met Jared Arnett and SOAR as we were starting to think about how to take our internship program to the next level. Immediately, SOAR introduced us to Eastern Kentucky Concentrated Employment Program based in Hazard, and their executive director, Jeff Whitehead, and brought us together to partner. And in those conversations, we then joined with Sullivan University, which has a learning center here in Louisa, and the three of us mapped out a plan to create the Peer Support Academy. And I think that's one of the things that's powerful about SOAR, is there's a lot of people doing a lot of great things in the Appalachian portion of Eastern Kentucky. But SOAR is connecting those folks. They're bringing people together so they can collaborate, and there is such a spirit of teamwork with those partners that SOAR is working with. And so that's what's made this Peer Support Academy a success. A peer support specialist is someone who's been clean and sober for a year, who takes a 40-hour course, and at the end of that, they become a Medicaid billable healthcare practitioner It's incredible public policy because we're taking people that have walked out their recovery and employing them to help others walk out their recovery. I often say if I wanted to climb Mount Everest, I wouldn't go see a geology professor. I'd find somebody that's planted a flag at the top. That's the heart of what a peer support specialist is. Someone who has survived, someone who has made it in their recovery.
I'm from Ashland, and I grew up in your normal household. My father was actually a police officer, and my mom worked at the hospital. I was one of 2 children. I was in church every time the doors opened. I was very intelligent. I was on the academic team. I was on the honor roll, and really it looked like my future was very bright. But right after high school, I was the victim of sexual assault. And at that point in my life, I went from running as hard as I could toward God to running as hard as I could away from God. I was very sheltered, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I just very quickly went very deep down the rabbit hole. I started doing anything and everything that I could. And before I knew it, I was addicted. I lost everything. Not only did I lose possessions, cars, custody of my children, but I lost myself. I lost all hope. I thought I could never be anything. I thought I would always need assistance. I have a lengthy criminal history, so I thought I could never get a job that could actually support me or my children. I came to Karen's place completely broken. My plan was to go for 30 days, get my family off my back, and then try to figure out how to do life again. Not knowing if I would see my children, not knowing what the future would hold for me. But about 2 weeks in, Tim and Matt brought a tour around, and they started talking about the concept of the Peer Support Academy. The more they talked, the more tears ran down my face. All of a sudden, I had hope again. They were telling me not just about a job, but a career opportunity where not only could I support myself, that I could support my children, but I could help other people at the same time. Something that had been lost for 10 years ignited that day. It was hope. So I decided to stick around a little bit longer. I completed the Peer Support Academy. I graduated in May of 2017, and from there, I've actually grown, and I've been promoted within the company, and I am the Deputy Chief of Staff for Development and Projects. Last fall, SOAR did an article about the Peer Support Academy, and it featured my story. It ran in my hometown paper. When I was in treatment, every day we answered 4 questions. What works for you? What doesn't work? A daily goal, and I want to be someone who. More often than not, my answer to that last question was, I want to be someone who my children can be proud of. One morning, I went in to wake up my daughter that I thought I would never see again, that I didn't know if I could ever hear her voice again. I went to wake her up from school, and she had cut out that article and taped it on the wall above her bed. And she had written on it, "Good job, Mom." That day, I realized that I had reached that goal.
Many of the graduating classes that have graduated from this program, they're here today somewhere. Would you all stand up? So 46 graduates, 41 employed. These people right here, stand up for them. Yeah, let's stand, give them a hand. We are solving the problem. This, again, 2 years ago was an idea, and now it's real, and that's what we believe in. We have next on the agenda, he's spoken at the summit before. We asked him to come share again about the work that Ragent Corporation is doing in Morehead, Kentucky as it relates to broadband. He's going to just share some insights of what's next in the world of technology and connectivity. We have Bob Skeena, CEO of Ragent Corporation.
And thank you, Jarrett, for inviting me back. And they've given me 5 minutes to speak today. Now, I'm an Italian boy from Jersey City. It usually takes me 20 minutes just to say hello. So this will be concise, but I'd like to thank Chairman Rogers for really introducing me to this area. And we have a company called Ragent now with an office in Moorhead. I want to give you a quick aside about the awesome powers of Chairman Rogers. I think it was last summer, I was over in Poland. I was in Krakow, and I got a text message from my assistant who said that Chairman Rogers' chief of staff had sent an email and that the chairman had a small event on Friday in Lexington for me to meet Paul Ryan. And I was in Poland at the time. So I thought, well, this is easy to solve. Just email Megan Bell, Chairman Rogers' chief of staff, back and let her know, love to be there, but I'm in Poland. So about 10 minutes go by, and I get a very concise message from Megan Bell. The chairman would like you to be in Kentucky on Friday. And you know, his close rate is really good. So I was in Lexington, Kentucky on Friday. So that's the power of the man that is set out to lead the economic recovery of this region, and it's just fun to work with him because I like folks who like to get things done. So we have an office in Moorhead in affiliation and partnership with the Space and Science Center there. Our company, we make radios for the mining industry, oil and gas, rail, military, ports around the world, doing business in about 50 countries. We opened an office. I think it's really only 24 months. It seems a lot longer. We're about 23 employees. I think we've hired 17 Moorhead State graduates, 15 or 16 directly from the Space and Science Engineering program. We will be hiring, we'll be probably 25 to 28 people by the end of this calendar year. And we're on our way to 50 employees, I think, over the next 24 months, maybe a little bit longer. We tend to grow prudently, but the students have been fantastic. These young folks, they graduate having hand-built satellites, 7 of which have flown in space, and an 8th is under construction right now for NASA, and that will circle the moon and do some testing for water vapor in the next year or two. So these kids, all from Eastern Kentucky, and they're really not kids, they're young men, young women. They come out, they graduate, and they come to work on Monday, and by Tuesday they're productive. So it's really very impressive, and we're continuing to add the kind of things we're working on down here. We're doing drone development. I think we have a little booth over here that shows some of the drones. Where we're working on future satellite projects with Moorhead State. They're taking over some of our design work at Ragent. We have, right now we have 5 offices, 2 in Philadelphia, 1 in Moorhead, 1 in Alabama, and 1 in Arizona. But much of our design work is shifting to the Moorhead office. And they're also picking up the nature of what we do quick enough that they're actually beginning to support our customers around the world. And these young folks are getting a chance to travel as well. They're doing demo support in Africa, in Europe, around the rest of the United States. So it's really worked out both ways for Ragent and those students. And we've gotten further involved with the Space and Science Engineering program to the point where the fellow that runs it, Dr. Ben Malfris, and I will be taking a trip in October of this year to Italy. We'll be visiting 5 universities around Italy, I think in Rome, Siena, Milan, Palermo, and Parma. And the purpose is to recruit space and science engineering students to come to Moorhead State. And it's part of Dr. Malfris's goal to take this footprint from Moorhead and make it global. So lots of work going on. The students and your graduates and your young citizens are doing a great job. You should be very proud of them. We're thrilled to be here. They continue to surprise us in good ways, and I think that was my 5 minutes. So that's the update of Regent and Moorhead. And thank you, everybody, and thank those that help us, because this group never stops trying to help us do better and grow here. So thank you to everyone that's been helpful to us. Appreciate it.
We started American Metalworks. What happened was we were in the oil and gas industry, and what happened is at one point we had 6 drilling rigs and we had close to 250 employees. And with the downturn in the coal industry, the oil and gas industry, we were affected tremendously. And so as we were starting to look around to see what we could do in order to be able to try to get people back to work, the laid off coal miners, the laid off oil and gas folks, is that we sent one of our drillers. He attended a school in which he learned how to do CNC operating. And we went up there to support this recent graduate of the school. And when we were talking to the instructor said, you guys have a tremendous asset. You have an asset in your people. They're hardworking, they're very bright, they catch on quickly. So when we heard that, we thought, let's go back and see what we can do. So as we started researching CNC, precision manufacturing, we started understanding it was going to require that we get certain certifications in order for us to be able to compete in the stage that we wanted to compete in. Aerospace is the #1 exporter in the state of Kentucky. Over $11.7 billion is produced in the state of Kentucky. So we felt like that was an area that we could excel in. We are aerospace certified. There's only 36 companies in the state of Kentucky that have that AS9100, that ISO, that aerospace certification. And with those certifications, what we started to do is, through the help of SOAR, we got a lot of information. You know, when we first started out, we didn't know exactly where to go, what resources were available to us. We had multiple meetings on how do we go about starting this idea, this enterprise that we have. And SOAR was able to direct us into places that we should go to get resources, to talk with people, to get ideas as to certifications. As we started building our portfolio, if you will, that really allowed us to be able to take it to the next level. Really be able to go to the Lockheed Martins, to the Boeings, to the Summit Aviations, and we can say, look, here's our portfolio, here's what we can do for you as a company in a hub zone in Eastern Kentucky, and what we can do to contribute to these large primes, these large companies. We have since done some work for Lockheed Martin, and so again, when you have the support, when you have the local support, when you have the community support, when you have support like Congressman Rogers, it makes a tremendous difference, and you just need to look for that support and take advantage of it, because they're there to help, and that's what it is. That's what makes it work. You know, some of the things that we've been able to do, we have made some components for a cube satellite that Moorhead State University Space and Science Center is working on, and that we'll be sending to the moon, I believe, in 2019, 2020. So again, that relationship where you've got two entities within Eastern Kentucky that are putting together something that is going to be going to the moon is pretty impressive. And again, that's coming from Eastern Kentucky. So we're proud of that. The other thing that we're excited about is we had an opportunity to meet with some representatives from NASA. We're one of 4 or 5 companies that have been invited to go to the Marshall Space Center. And so again, a company, American Metalworks from Eastern Kentucky, is able to go to the hub of the Space Center and to go and talk and see perhaps about having opportunity to work on some equipment that's going to be going to Moon and to Mars and beyond. You know, I think one of the things that Denny and I are most proud of is the fact that we're trying to create a company that can give back to the community. It does our heart good to see these laid off coal miners, to see these laid off oil and gas guys, for them to be able to put their skills to work, to be able to come into a shop and to be gainfully employed, to be able to make a living wage, to be able to provide for their families and not have to leave the region. We want to be able to provide for our community. Well, we love Appalachia, and we want to make sure that we can do our small part to make it better for the people.
Let's hear it for American Metal Works. Great. How many of you remember exactly where you were and what you were doing on September 1st of 2001? Do you remember where you were that day? I think most of us do. A terribly impressive event. Cynthia and I were in Washington. Our condominium is over at the Iwo Jima Memorial on the 8th floor, looking right down the middle of the mall, with the Pentagon over here, Kennedy Center over here, the mall this way, and the Capitol, and so on. And we had the television on, and I saw that first plane, and I asked Cynthia to come and look at the television. She was back in the back of the condo, and she came, and just as she got there, that second plane hit. And she said, oh, Hal, what's going on? And I said, we're at war. And then not long after that came the plane that hit the Pentagon. We didn't know at the time it was a plane. I thought it was a bomb. But we went out on the patio on the 8th floor looking right down at the Pentagon. And there was that ugly black mushroom cloud over the Pentagon. From what I thought was a bomb, it turned out, of course, it was a plane, another plane. But that was a tearing, critical, ugly event. Before the events of 9/11 ended, our next speaker had to immediately start thinking about the days that follow, including the mobilization of our military force. Major General Vinnie Bowles, now retired, served in a variety of assignments over a 33-year career, to include command at every possible level and a number of combat deployments. His final Army assignment was Assistant Deputy Chief of Staff, G4, on the Army staff in the Pentagon, where he oversaw logistics operations and readiness for the 1.1 million soldier force, including surges into Iraq and Afghanistan. He was the logistics man, the supplier of our forces in Afghanistan and Iraq. If anyone's leadership has been battle-tested, it is our next speaker. And we need to hear his message today because I consider everyone in this room a leader in Eastern Kentucky. And I'm hoping we can learn something from the General that will help us take our next steps. And this wouldn't have been possible without our keynote sponsor, Appalachian Wireless. Thanks for helping bring a keynote speaker to Pikeville. Please join me giving a warm Eastern Kentucky welcome to Major General Vinnie Bowles.
Thank you so very much. Can y'all hear me all right? I'm working up here. You hear me all right? Nothing wrong with this room. 40 push-ups and a 4-mile run wouldn't cure, I'll tell you. Well, I don't know, but after that introduction, if I was smart, I would shut up and say, are there any questions, and go from there. But Congressman Rogers, I want to thank you for that thoughtful introduction. More importantly, I want to thank you for the privilege of the platform and this gracious welcome from Eastern Kentucky. It is good to be back. It is good to be back. What the Congressman didn't mention was I got commissioned in 1976, and the first place the Army sent me was to Kentucky for the first 5 years of my Army career. And as I was driving back here yesterday, I was struck by the number of funeral details I had to come and do in Eastern Kentucky, and the fact that this is such a special place for our nation. So it's just a gracious welcome you've given me, and it's just such a joy to be here. Thank you all so very, very much. Now, let's get to work. In about 2 minutes, I have to answer 3 critical questions that every audience has when a speaker is standing up in front of them. The 3 questions are, who's this person? What's this person going to talk about? And why should I care? Well, the Congressman's handled who I am. I'm a soldier for life. Came in the Army, was going to do 4 years and get out. Something happened. And 33 years later, my mom is standing there looking at me at a retirement ceremony going, I had no idea. So that's kind of okay. What am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about leading teams in challenging times. And I'm going to talk about the lessons that the national treasures called soldiers that you entrusted to me taught me in those 33 years. Why should you care? Come on, General, I'm not in the Army. I'm not in a formation after this is over. I'm just a little office. 4 or 5 people are trying to get something done in Eastern Kentucky. The Army's not relevant to what I'm doing. So why should I care? You should care because leadership is the secret sauce. Leadership is the difference between a task being done okay and a task being done really well. And I saw it time and time again in the service. I'd see a unit getting ready to go on an operation, and we'd give them everything they needed. They needed 100 people, we gave them 105. They needed $110, we gave 150. They needed 5 training days, we gave them 20. Whatever resource they needed, we gave them. They gave them the newest equipment, everything. And if they were not well led, none of that mattered. They failed. I'd see other units, they needed 100 folks, they had 70. They needed 10 training days. We looked at them and said, 4 is the best we got. But for some reason, if you needed it on Friday, they gave it to you on Wednesday and said, is there anything else I can do for you? And the difference in those 2 units was leadership. So we're going to talk about that today and how you lead folks in tough times. Does that work for you? I'm working up here. Does that work for you? All right. Here's SOAR's mission: to expand job creation, enhance regional opportunity, innovation, identity, improve the quality of life, and support all those working to achieve those goals in Appalachian Kentucky. Now, who could argue with that? Nobody. So how come it's hard? It's hard because you got to do it in challenging times. You got to do it when the heat's high, the outcome's uncertain, and the pressure's on. And everybody's got an idea about what right looks like, and the problem, the challenge sometimes is aligning all those ideas together. You ever been in a meeting, and you're sitting around a table, and one guy says, well, that meeting went well, and walks out, and everybody else is out in the hallway going, I hope somebody's going to do something about that. That's kind of what happened. So we're going to talk about that today. But you got to do it in challenging times. What I want to tell you is there have always been times like these. That is not my younger brother. June 1976, I'd been commissioned 3 weeks in the United States Army. The only thing I knew how to do was stand in front of that sign and put on a uniform. That was about it. I was clueless. I couldn't have poured water out of a boot if you printed tip on the heel. I had no idea. I joined the Army for the simplest of reasons. Everybody looks at me now and says, wow, you're two-star general. You had a plan. I did not have a, yeah, I had a plan. Here was my plan. My father was an Irish immigrant from County Sligo, Ireland, and so was my mother. They came to America. They both had 8th grade educations in 1949. They looked around and they figured out if they want to make something of themselves. You all familiar with the TV show Flip This House? Yeah, my father was into Flip This Bar and Restaurant in New York City. And he was flipping places. His hiring philosophy, I was the oldest of 4 boys, his hiring philosophy was, I'd rather breed my help than hire it. You got the idea, okay? And I remember I was 16 years old and I was mopping the floor at the bar on 39th Street from 5th and 6th Avenues. And my father leans across the bar, 16 years old, he looks at me and says, you better do a good job there, Vincent. This is all gonna be yours someday. And I remember reaching down to squeeze that mop head and I said to myself, Jesus, Mary, and sweet St. Joseph, I gotta get plan B. The Army was my plan B. I joined the Army not because what I wanted to do, because I knew what I didn't want to do. And people see me working hard in the Army, they'd go, you're working awfully hard. I'd say, because I know what's going to happen if this Army thing doesn't work out. I know what I'm going back to. So what I want to talk to you about is the times I've seen from 1976 when I came in the Army to now. Now, there are a couple of busy charts. Hang with me. I'm a professional. I've done this before. We're going to start in the upper left-hand chart of the chart. Upper left-hand corner, we're going to work around clockwise. You with me? Hang with me now. You type A's are going to get ahead of me. Don't do that. All right, let's see if we can do this. I came in the Army in 1976. Iran, up in the upper, Iran was our #1 ally in the Persian Gulf when I came in the United States Army. I went to school in 1976 at Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland with Iranian officers in my class. Boy, how things have changed. Gerald Ford was the president, lost re-election to Jimmy Carter. 1976 was also the 200th birthday of the United States of America. And I was in my office at Aberdeen Proving Ground. It was just before the 4th of July weekend, and my sergeant, who'd been in Vietnam 3 different times, looked at me and said, what are you going to do this weekend, Lieutenant? I said, well, I'm going up to home in New York City, 200th birthday of America, Statue of Liberty, big celebration, that's where I'm going. And that 3-time Vietnam veteran looked at me and said, you're going to wear your uniform? I said, well, yeah. He said, sir, I wouldn't do that. It makes them nervous. Boy, have things changed. Boy, have things changed, but it wasn't always that way. Left 1976, all of a sudden we had the Iranian hostage crisis. The Pope was Polish and elected in the 1970s, right there. And 1978, Joe B. Hall and Jack Gibbons win the NCAA championship. And Jerry Brown's the governor of California when I come in the Army. Yeah, you got that, huh? You'll see that again. 1980s, the Iranian hostage crisis ends. Ronald Reagan and a gentleman named Hal Rogers are elected to the United States to serve us. That arrow that's going up isn't a good thing. That arrow reflects Captain Bowles looking at Mrs. Bowles and saying, honey, this Army thing's a good deal. We should stay in. And she said, but mortgage rates are 16.5% and you still can't afford a house. 16.5% mortgage rates in the 1980s. I tell that to young audiences now and they're thinking 4%'s a stretch. 16.5%, that for a $100,000 house, your mortgage payment was $1,650. Wasn't always that way. Solidarity rises its head in Poland along with other emerging freedom movements. Gorbachev comes to power. George Bush is elected in 1988 as the president. And the Berlin Wall falls down in 1989. And also during the 1980s, Kentucky has a Final Four team. I know. 1990s, if you're a young captain, you're worried about going to Somalia or the Balkans. We have Desert Shield, Desert Storm hit us. The 91% under George Bush, I want to make sure you understand that. In June of 1991, when Desert Shield, Desert Storm ended, George Bush's approval rating was 91%. 91%. Wow. 17 months later, he loses re-election to a combination of Bill Clinton and Ross Perot. How fast things fall. When Bill Clinton gets inaugurated in January 1993, there are 100 sites on the World Wide Web. I'd tell you how many there are now, but it'd change by the time I finish the sentence. The economy booms in the 1990s. I put that Microsoft symbol down in the bottom corner because in 1997, there's a guy named Nathan Myhrvold. That name doesn't mean much to you. Let me tell you what he does. In 1997, he's the Chief Technology Officer for Microsoft. Yeah, you're paying attention now. He's a pretty powerful dude, isn't he? I mean, you go to a tech geek conference and Nathan's talking, you want a seat. You want to listen to what Nathan's saying where the future's going. And in 1997, Nathan said, I can predict the future. And he looked at the Microsoft board of directors and he said, I've checked and I've got it. Apple is already dead. I want to ask Nathan how his iZoom's working right about now. Also in the 1990s, 1996, 1998, under Rick Pitino and Tubby Smith, Kentucky brings 2 national championships. And on 31 December 1999, what we know as the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics goes away and Russia arises. Y2K. I don't know what you were doing on 31 December 1999, but here's what I was doing. I was sitting in an operations center in the Pentagon at 15 minutes before midnight, and I'm watching that clock tick. And to say people were nervous was an understatement. It was pretty high intensity, high pressure. And 5 minutes before midnight, tension gets a little high. 5 minutes after midnight, things start to ease up a little. Because we're checking, y'all think it's funny, but we're checking things like, are our missiles still where they're supposed to be? Has anybody pushed a button they weren't supposed to push on our side or their side? And we're watching this all day. And after about 15 minutes, people start really high-fiving each other and jumping around. And 2 groups jump up in the room. One group jumps up and says, see, I told you all those fixes we spent all that money on worked. And the other group jumped up and said, see, I told you not a damn thing's going to happen. We didn't have to spend anything. What should bother you is that 18 years later, we still don't know who the truth was. I put that up with the congressman's indulgence, but that is the Democratic National Convention in 2000 in Los Angeles. Why do I put that up? Because a young man from Illinois goes to that convention and is told, sorry, you can't get in. We don't have a credential for you. His name was Barack Obama. 2000, we didn't let him in the room. They didn't let him in. They said, sorry. He's written about his book. He went up the door, said, I'm here. They said, sorry, you're not on the list. Hit the road. 536 people in the state of Florida decide the 2000 election. Don't tell me your vote's not important. On 9/11, an entity with no standing army, no standing government, no standing economy attacks the United States of America and kills over 3,000 people. And our view of what combat and what combat operations look like radically changes. We go to Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, longest wars in our nation's history of 243 years. Microsoft emerges. We start in 2007 to have the growth of something called the FANG economy. And it scares a lot of people. But you're pretty fortunate because you have a congressman that's on the cutting edge of that. And the FANG economy stands for Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. That economy starts skyrocketing in 2000. It scares a lot of people in the industrial world because it doesn't build anything. They don't know how it grows. They don't know how it works. The people that understand the FANG economy are the people that are going to own the future. That gentleman who couldn't get admitted to the Democratic National Convention in 2000 goes and gets inaugurated in 2009 and 1.5 million people come. The point is, don't tell me you know who the president's going to be in 2024, because it's changing. Kentucky again, another national champion, Elite Eight in the 2000s. And then now it's the 2010s. We've got the Tea Party, Affordable Care Act, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom. We have Governor Bevin and Lieutenant Governor Hooper. We have SOAR starting in 2013, now celebrating its 5th anniversary. We still have Operation Iraqi Freedom. Now we have ISIS to worry about. We have Kim Jong-un, Iran, the election of Donald Trump. Kentucky has a 2012 national championship. And Jerry Brown's the governor of California. Well, General, we really appreciate that run-through history lesson, and you know, my class would appreciate it and everything else. Really appreciate that, but what's the point? I mean, we're about SOAR. We're about getting things done. We're about, you know, shaping our Appalachian region. What's this history thing got to do with all that? Here's my point. It's hard to predict the future, isn't it? If you'd have told that young man in 1976, here's what the future looks like for you. The Pope's going to be Polish, the Berlin Wall's going to fall down, you're going to go to war, but it's going to be in Iraq. And one of our worst enemies by the time you make general is going to be Iran, and you're going to have to spend a lot of time worrying about that. I would have sent you for your analysis someplace. But that all happened. You can't predict the future. But I see organizations as I go around the country and speak and consult. I see individuals and leaders as I go around the world and consult. They are paralyzed to do anything, and when I ask them why, they say, because I don't know what the future holds. Nobody knows what the future holds. The leadership challenge is not to predict the future. The leadership challenge is to build an organization that can handle the future when it breaks upon you. Because in tough times, people look to leaders. It's easy to lead. When it's 70 degrees out, you got 3 email messages in your inbox, and the only challenge you got is your financial officer's running up and down the hallway going, I don't know what to do with all this cash. Life is pretty simple. Leadership's pretty simple, and don't screw it up, your leadership model, and. But well, as I said, when the heat's high, the pressure's on, and the outcome's uncertain, that's when people turn to leaders. That's why you need to turn to each other. Because you got to build teams that are going to handle the future that's coming at you. Because I don't know what the next 40 years are holding, like those last 40 years, but they're coming. They're coming whether you're ready or not. So what organizations like SOAR do is they help you get ready. They help you get ready for the future that's coming. Rather than wait and be impacted by it, you're impacting your future. Two things get in the way of good leadership. Two things I've found get in the way of good leadership. First, management doesn't equal leadership. People forget that. I see a lot of people that are great managers, they couldn't lead anybody anywhere. Management is a clipboard and a task list. Management stuff you gotta do. I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. That's all it is, a clipboard and a task list. There's a lot of people that are good at that. Management is directive. Leadership is connective. How do you connect with folks? Leadership is how you get that stuff done. Leadership is the approach you bring to problems. Leadership is the approach you bring to people. I ask leaders when I'm consulting with them or coaching, I say, what type of leader are you? And they go, I'm a democratic leader, I'm a dictatorial leader, I'm a whatever. And they say, what do you mean? I say, well, I got one question for you. Are you a here I am leader? Or are you a there you are leader? Here I am leaders, it's all about who? What about me? How am I looking? There you are leaders, it's about those and the folks you lead. Those are the people that are connecting. So I don't know what the future's bringing, but I know the answer to the future is right here in this room. It's what you'll do, and it's what you'll do together. The other reason leadership gets a challenge is we tend to think about leadership in terms of what works for me. How I like to be led, how I like to work, how I like to get things done. And when you're leading folks, You got to think about what works for them. It was interesting, when I started speaking to corporate and association audiences about 10 years ago, I'd go around and there's going to be a Q&A session, somebody put their hand up. And the question goes something like this: General, I got this problem. Usually a baby boomer, older. So what's the problem? He said, I got these millennials working for me. They ain't getting it. They're all techie and understand. I don't get it. So we talk about that a little bit. I give them a couple thoughts and advice, because one of the good things about the Army is I work with them every day. Well, now I'm speaking to corporate association audiences, the hands are going up. And it's a very well-dressed, polite millennial puts his hand up and says, General, can you give me a hand? I said, what is it? He said, well, you're about the age. Yeah, I got these baby boomers working for me. He said, they're not getting it. I said, what do you mean? He says, they come in. He said, no, they're good. They're nice enough people. They come in at 7 o'clock. They sit at their desk. They bring their lunch. They eat lunch at their desk. They work all day till 5 o'clock, but they don't get anything done. They're slow. You give them technology, and they don't get it done. It takes a long time. Do you have any advice here? And I said, yeah. And now it's very interesting to watch. Millennials are getting to the age now where they're having children. And it's very interesting to watch. There were no controls, very few controls over millennials and technology, were there? They just used tech whenever they wanted to. Watch a millennial and their children in technology. I walked into one of their homes, and there was a basket there. I said, what's that for? That's where the tech stuff goes when you come in the house. You don't bring it to the dinner table. You don't bring it to the family room. We don't have one of these situations where we're all in the same house and you're texting me a note. So it's kind of interesting. So every generation changes. Folks say millennials are different. And I tell baby boomers go, millennials are different. I go, shut up. You a millennial too? They go, no, I wasn't. I said, yeah, ask your parents. My mom and dad, 1965, lying in bed looking at each other saying, we have failed. He stays on the phone all day, and he likes the Rolling Stones instead of Perry Como. Where'd we go wrong? Perry Como, you can look it up. But we tend to think about leadership in terms of what works for us. Step back for a second, look at who's working with you, what works for them. What connects with them? What butters their biscuit? Work from their perspective. Now, it's a busy chart. Stick with me. I've done this before. Every organization I have ever been in 33 years in the service, and now 10 years in the corporate sector, every single organization I've been around, big or small, falls into 3 groupings. Every organization. How many each group? Kind of up to you. But here are the 3 groups. First group over here on the left-hand side, I call them the H2s. They're the heroes and the heroines. They come early. They stay late. They're the people, if you ask them 2 questions, they give you 5 answers. And you say, how come? They say, because you're going to need to know these other 3 things. They're the kind of people, when you're on the phone and they're walking by at the end of the day and they're walking out the door, they hear you talking about something they're working on, they stop what they're doing, execute an about face, put their briefcase down, pick up their folder, and when you hang up the phone, they're going, what do you need? They're the kind of people, when they're at your door saying, you got a minute? You got a minute. You been around folks like that? Yeah. If you're in this room, you probably are folks like that. They got their sleeves up. They just figure stuff out. Let me break this to you gently. It's in their DNA. Your leadership probably had very little to do with them being that way. Your leadership challenge with those folks is don't get in their way and help them, because they tend to be good candidates for burnout. Because they think coming to you for help is an admission of weakness, and they don't want to bother you. So they just keep working it. And the first couple of times you say, you need any help with that? What do they say? Nope, I got it. I got it. Hang in there. About the 4th time you come by, they'll look and go, well, if you could, and then you can fix something for them. That's about all you got to do with those folks. They're just great. The other thing you got to worry about is someone's going to try to steal them. So you got to worry about those folks. They're your H2s, heroes and heroines. I'm going to take you to the far right-hand side. That is not an approved military acronym at the top. GPTHTTY, but it works. This does not have the endorsement, by the way, of the Society for Human Resource Management. I know, because I briefed this to them once, and the silence was deafening, and I have not been invited back. But GPTHTTY stands for this. That's the other group. God put them here to test you. Oh, you know those folks, yeah. They're the folks who can tell you why it's too expensive, too hard, it wasn't my job. They, whoever they are, they did this, I didn't do this. And it's too expensive, and they're the people who will go to their, if you want to get them excited, and at 5 o'clock workday ends, go to their cubicle at 4:53 and start a conversation. That's the most excited you're going to get them all day. Let me break this to you gently. Your leadership style had very little to do with them being that way. It's in their DNA. Somehow on their life journey, they got wired that way. A mom, a dad, a coach, a teacher, a first boss, whatever, they just got wired to be that way. Doing the minimum is what they're comfortable doing. That's just kind of the way they are. And you could talk for a year and a day. Have you ever talked to bosses and they go, I'm spending 50% of my time with the bottom 10% of my people? You ever heard that? They like it. They like being in an organization where they get the boss's attention all the time. You ain't going to change them much either. Your leadership challenge with them is make sure they're not sucking up your time, because they're not changing. And people say, well, you don't understand how that works. I was in the Army for 33 years. Give me a break. I know how our bureaucracy works. The deal you got to do with those folks, you got to be objective, ruthlessly objective. I need this on Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Guaranteed. Wednesday at 1:59, they will say, I got a problem. No, now you got two problems. It's not done and me. Now you just got to fix it. Be ruthless with them. That's it. And the reason I want you to be ruthless with them and not spend a lot of time with these folks is that group in the middle. That group in the middle is a question mark. They're making up their mind. They haven't decided which side they're on yet. My advice to you as a leader is don't spend your time on the right-hand side. Find those folks in the middle. Where do I find those folks in the middle, General? The folks on the left-hand side know who they are because they use them to get their work done. Watch the new hires. Watch the folks who come in who are new. Spend a lot of time with them. Ask them 2 questions. All you got to do, I have leaders all the time say, well, I want to know how I'm doing. So I'm going to go around and ask everybody, how am I doing? Don't do that. Don't ask people how you're doing. Don't. There's 2 reasons you shouldn't do it. First, they think you should know. You laughing, but I'm serious. They think you should know. Second, that's a pretty nerve-wracking question, isn't it? How am I doing? What's the right answer? What kind of a day is he having? I'm not sure. Well, great, boss. Oh, you're great, chief. Love you. And they walk away, tell their wife that night, you wouldn't believe what happened to me at work today. Instead, ask 2 questions if you want to know how you're doing. Only 2 questions you got to ask if you want to know how you're doing. And you can do this in SOAR. Walk up to people and ask 2 questions. 1, what are you working on and how's it going? That's all you got to do. If they can tell you what they're working on and they can tell you how it's going, you've learned a lot about your organization. Because if they can't tell you what they're working on and they can't tell you how it's going, that's going to tell you something about your leadership style. Well, spend your time with those folks in the middle. My question to you is, which way do you as a leader make it easier? Do you make it easier for those folks in the middle to slide to the GPTHTTY team? Or do you make them easier to slide to H2s? Whichever way you make easy is the way they're going to go. Fair enough? I'm working up here. Yeah, fake it till you feel. You'll be all right. I want to focus on a couple of critical leadership areas that I find are critical with teams. I call these FARs. It's my acronym. I've used it. I had a boss that used it. I've had it for as long as I've been in the Army. It stands for flat ass rules. That's it. These are ground rules. What does that mean? It means these work if it's day or if it's night, if it's hot, if it's cold, if you're tired or not tired, if the enemy's coming right now or the enemy's coming in 2 hours. It doesn't matter. These things stand the test of time and work. And I'd advise, if you're thinking about where your leadership challenges are, start here. First, remember one thing in leadership. Activity does not equal achievement. Activity does not equal achievement. I don't care what you're busy at. I care about what you're accomplishing. So if you get people come up to you and go, I'm busy. I'm busy. Say, what'd you accomplish today? Let me get back to you on that. No, go away. Don't mistake activity for achievement. Don't worry about your folks being busy. Worry about what your folks, and worry about what you're doing to get in the way of accomplishing things. There was a cardinal, the Archbishop of New York, I'm a New Yorker, Cardinal Archbishop of New York, Francis O'Connor. And Archbishop O'Connor, before he became the Archbishop of New York, he was a Navy chaplain for 33 years. And he was asked once, a reporter asked him once a question after he was the cardinal, said, what do you pray for? And the cardinal, of course, gave the usual answers at the beginning. Well, I pray for world peace, and I pray for things to do well and everything else. And the reporter pushed a little bit, said, no. What do you pray for yourself? Not all that other stuff. What do you pray for? And he said, well, I got a little prayer on my shaving mirror every morning that I've had since I was in the Navy, and I say that prayer every day. Lord, don't let me get in the way of somebody trying to do the right thing. Don't let me get in the way of somebody trying to do the right thing. As a leader, don't let activity equal achievement. Don't focus on activity, focus on achievement, and ask yourself as a leader, if they're not achieving something, what am I doing that's getting in the way? Back to the previous chart, am I making it easier or am I making it hard? Second, the answer is at the intersecting points. You will find people that are working their piece, they're probably doing a pretty good job working their piece of the puzzle. We call them in the corporate world, they call stovepipes in organizations. I find things in the stovepipes are working pretty good. Folks in the HR stovepipe are doing the stuff HR folks do. Folks in the finance stovepipe know what they're doing and they're doing that. The sales stovepipe is doing it. And sorry. The problem with stovepipes is stovepipes have a function, is to keep smoke out of the room. Stovepipes are not designed to talk to other stovepipes. That's your job as a leader. How do you get those stovepipes interacting? So if you have something that you're worried about how it's going, go to the intersecting points. Go to where those organizations have to intersect, where they have to interact. That's why places like this are so important and so critical, because you're intersecting and interacting together. It was a great guy. Like I said, I got born and raised in the restaurant business. There was a great restaurateur. There is a great restaurateur in New York named Danny Meyer. And he was asked once what was his secret to leadership and leading these great restaurants he had. He said, I really struggled as a leader until I learned this one thing. And I'd offer it to you. He said, I learned there's not a lot of things people can't do. There's very, very few things people and teams can't do. But I found there's a whole lot of things they won't do. And as a leader, I started making it my mission. When someone said they couldn't do something, I found out, is it something you really can't do? Because then I can train you. Or is it really something you just won't do? And I started finding out the difference in that was their attitudes. So know the difference between can't and won't. What things can't you do? And what things won't you do? And if somebody looks at you and says they can't do something, before you accept that, say, tell me more. I find I ask because 5 times. I can't do that. Because? Well, it's hard. Because? Well, it's really hard. Because? After my 4th because, one of 2 things happens. They learn something or they throw me out of the room, one of the 2. That's all right. The most critical thing you can do as a leader is take excuses away. Find out something. You got people that are working hard for you, and when you say, is everything going okay, they're normally usually going to tell you everything's great. Keep hanging in there. When you finally find a policy, a rule, a bureaucrat, or something that's getting in the way of accomplishing things, take that excuse away. Work that excuse and take it away. You will rise in their estimation as a leader further than anything else that you could do. That will make more of a difference to them. And then finally, decide to decide. Colin Powell, in his book, My American Journey, said leaders have to be comfortable making a decision with about 60% of the information. Because if you wait for perfect information, it's too late. Train's already left the station, enemy's already behind you, too late. So I'm from Huntsville, Alabama now, and the engineers in Huntsville hear that, and they high-five each other, and they get overjoyed. They go, great, decision-making is a mathematical certainty. Draw a line, get to 60%, make a decision. One problem with that. The 60% of information you need to make a decision is different than the 60% you need to make a decision, is different than the 60% you need to make a decision. So when you're making decisions, my question I always ask is, do your folks know how you decide to decide? Do they know your decision criteria? Or do they have to spend their energy when you say you want something trying to figure out what you want rather than give you what you want? Take time to tell your folks how you're deciding to decide, how you make decisions, why it's important. Because if you tell them that, they'll move heaven and earth for you. And if you don't tell them that, you're going to have quite a challenge. I got one thought to leave you with from Helen Keller. Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. This stuff isn't easy. If things that you were working on were easy, we'd contract it out and have somebody else do it. We're asking you to do it because it's tough. Because the heat's high and the pressure's on and the outcome's uncertain. But you're doing it because it's important. I'm very blessed to be here and be in your presence because I don't know what the future holds. But Congressman Rogers, I got to tell you, the future's in the most secure place you can be, and it's in the hands and the hearts of the people I've had the privilege to meet while I've been here. Thank you all so very much. Thank you for what you're doing. Please keep our soldiers and their families and our sailors and airmen and Marines in your prayers. They go for you. They think you're worth it. And take a moment to dedicate yourselves to being the type of citizens worthy of their service. They go for us. I was struck when I checked the records this morning. 114 national treasures from Kentucky have given, as Lincoln called it, their last full measure of devotion in this war we're fighting now. They went for us. Thank you so much for their service, that you've entrusted them to us. And thanks for what you're going to do for Kentucky. God bless you all. Thank you.
I'm on the second floor, office, right next to the post office, and I've got windows all around me and I can see downtown great. As I continue to look at those windows every day, I could just see continual deterioration. And it just broke my heart because I've been here all my life. I grew up as a kid here. Pineville's my home. I'm proud of Pineville. I want to see it do good. But the one thing that really got my attention, I had family come in from Western Kentucky for a funeral one day. And they said, "Scott, what happened to your town?" I said, "Well, what do you mean? People are leaving, we're losing jobs, people don't want to invest any money. You can't hardly blame them, everybody's leaving." And it just, that statement never left me. And as I would sit on that second floor and I'd look out that window, and it just seemed like every week, every month, it got worse. And I just kind of made up my mind, for people to buy in this, we have to personally, what skin in the game are we going to put in it?
Mayor Maiden and I tried to come up with different ways that we could help people to start their own businesses and to get out and to take that chance. Small business owners, some of these creative people that had an idea that needed just a little push to take the leap of faith to open their own business in Pineville. At the same time, we noticed all the dilapidated buildings and the property owners that needed a little push or a reason to clean up their properties. We developed the Pineville's incentive package. The incentive package ties in a whole group of people and organizations in Eastern Kentucky that have a vested interest in the growth of downtown Pineville. The Small Business Development Center at Southeast Community College is the first step in the incentive package process, and then they can present that to several different lenders in the area. There are several small banks and financial institutions that have provided great interest rates. Pineville Utility Commission offers them 90 days of water services. They install taps. POF Carting is their garbage contractor, and they provide roll-off dumpsters and have provided garbage services for the first 90 days during construction as well for the property owners. The Pineville City Council passed a tax moratorium. The tax moratorium freezes the property rate for 5 years for the property owner. So there's properties that have been bought that are valued at $40,000, And then once the remodel is finished, the property's valued, well into six figures. It will be taxed at that $40,000 for 5 years. All of the resources are here in Eastern Kentucky. Sometimes it's just pointing the people in the right direction.
I guess the easiest way to start is why we're doing what we're doing, and that's because we live here. I've been fortunate to live in bigger cities, grew up in Pineville, but kind of knew, hey, I enjoy doing this in Lexington, hey, I enjoy doing that in Knoxville. Why can't we do these in Pineville? So having those experiences in all the different big cities, you kind of develop a vision of how that can be implemented at home. And I'm going to live here the rest of my life. I plan to, so why not? I graduated from law school in 2011, and I came back and I hung a shingle and started my law practice. My wife was a year behind me, so after she graduated, we wanted to bring some retail to the city because there wasn't any. We found the old City Hall building. The building had the historic aesthetics to it. It was, it's a beautiful building, so we wanted to not tear it down and not build up a metal building or something that would not fit within the scheme of the courthouse square. So we kind of we used the layout, and we used every square inch of it to put different businesses in. Ultimately, we moved our law firm here, but we have the cigar shop. It's called Council Chamber Cigars. It's in the Council Chamber room. We have Old City Loft. It's the boutique downstairs, and it's a women's clothing boutique. And we have City Salon. Next to us is Appalachian Massage Therapy. So these are services and retail goods that we would go to Lexington or Knoxville to enjoy or to get. We have that here. We brought that here, and that's what small towns have to do. And we found another set of buildings that had been dilapidated for 10 or 15 years. We took that block and we said, hey, this would be a good commercial space, 4 or 5 retail commercial spaces downstairs, but we need something else to help fund the renovation project and to help bring people to downtown Pineville. So we decided to do some condominium loft-style apartments upstairs. So we did those first, and we leased those out almost immediately. Everybody said, you're crazy, you're not gonna lease luxury or semi-luxury apartments in Pineville. Well, they thought I was crazy because nobody had ever tried it. We tried it, it worked, and now we're continuing to do that. We're developing more properties. And the vision is to tap into our natural resources and to cause tourists, to cause people from other places to spend their money here. We have in Harlan, Black Mountain, the highest point in the state of Kentucky. We have the first state park, Pine Mountain State Park.
Pineville, one of the key components that's driven our downtown revitalization has been the development of the Appalachian Wildlife Center, which SOAR was instrumental in seeing through that this project would come to fruition for Eastern Kentucky and the region as a whole.
The Wildlife Reserve is going to be huge for this area. We're currently trying to prepare for the influx of tourism that we're going to get from that. And that's one reason that I'm doing what I'm doing and others are doing what they're doing. They're projecting 800,000 people. If we get 400,000, if we get 100,000, that's a game changer for us. So when we talk about vision, I'm not talking about just business owners or just developers. You have to have a community that has vision as well.
There are more opportunities here in Appalachia than what people once realized. I think that those are being created through different organizations in the region. Different opportunities are being created for people to stick around. People are starting to believe that there is a future in Appalachia.
Winner this year, Pineville Main Street program, getting $2,000. Give them another big hand. I also want to make sure we recognize Appalachian Wireless for their commitment and the sponsorship of the keynote speaker today. What about Major General Vinnie Bowles? Fantastic job. Thank you for your support on that. We are transitioning now to our final speaker before our round of special announcements with the governor and congressman, several other dignitaries. And you know, we thought this year we want to showcase the proof of what's happening. And we thought, what better way than a tanker truck in the center of the arena to show tangible evidence of things that turn from ideas to reality. And you're going to hear just in a moment from the CEO of Silverliner. And we're so glad they're here. When they said they were bringing the expo, I started saying, how tall is it? How tall, how wide is it? How heavy is it? Can we get it in here? Well, it's in here because that's what we do. So watch this quick video about Silverliner. You'll hear from Chris, and then we're bringing our dignitaries up on the stage to show that not only are our people believing and taking action, but our federal state partners are investing and supporting that work. When those two happen together, that's when transformation starts to happen. And we're excited about it. Thank you all.
At Silverliner, we take pride in producing the best trucks in the shortest amount of time, giving you greater return on your investment. We understand that your business moves fast and time is money. Not only do we get you on the road faster, we also provide you with the most up-to-date, state-of-the-art equipment on your truck so that your business can be more efficient and profitable. We are always researching newer and better ways to operate and maintain our trucks so that you can focus more on your business rather than worrying about your truck. We strategically engineer each aspect of the tanker truck before we begin the production process. We use 3D modeling and electronic stations in each pod of the production facility to ensure 100% accuracy upon completion of the unit. During the production of the tanker, the technician or welder uses the 3D modeling diagram to separate and remove any aspect of the unit to determine specific measurements and locations of each device used. With Silverliner, you can be assured that your truck is built in a modern, state-of-the-art facility, individually engineered and assembled by the highest quality workforce available. Quality is more than a word at Silverliner. It's a culture, and we stand by each truck we produce. Silverliner, built tough when you need it.
Chris Tomlinson, CEO of Silverliner.
Thank you. I'm glad to be standing here today. It's been a long year and a half to get to this point, but I'm glad to say that Silverliner today is open for business. Although we're still a couple of months from having our building completed, we are already building trucks in a temporary facility. One of those trucks is here that you see today. Our sales staff is traveling throughout the Southeast, setting up dealer networks, and by the first of those networks will extend nationwide by the first of the year. Trucks built right here in Eastern Kentucky will soon be all over the country. I get asked a lot why I decided to build Silverliner in Eastern Kentucky. My answer is simple. This is the best place to build it. First of all, this is my home. My family has been in business here for 3 generations. There is nowhere else that I can think that I would rather live and raise my children. Then there is a workforce. Over the last 20 years, I have done business over 14 states, worked with many major corporations, employed people in many places, and seen many different workforces. Without exception, the best of those are right here in Eastern Kentucky. Our workers here are second to none. They are skilled in many areas, loyal, hardworking, production-oriented, and willing to go the extra mile. For me, there was no question of where I was going to build this business. From the beginning, I have said that Silverliner will build the best trucks with the best people, and Eastern Kentucky is where we will do that. We received over 3,000 applications for our first 75 job openings. We began the interviewing process, and we began our welding test in March of this year. From that process, we sent our first group to be trained in March on a very grueling, tough program that was 12 weeks long. Big Sandy Technical School and Hazard Community Technical. I am proud to say that in June that we have graduating 2 classes, and we have already begun 2 more classes also at the Paintsville campus for Big Sandy and one in Hazard at the Community Technical. We saw 23 people receive certification in advanced aluminum welding. Most of these men worked other jobs. Spoke to several. They would get up at 3 a.m. They would go and work 10, 12 hours. They would be back in their class training. We started classes at 5. They run to 9, 10 o'clock at night. We've done this in the evening because I know what kind of people live here, and I know how our workers are. They're going to continue their jobs, and they needed something afterwards. To explain to you how hard this is and how tough these gentlemen are, the average weight loss was 22 pounds. So it's not easy. The labs are very hot. They have to wear protective gear and a lot of hard work. I couldn't be more happier with the outcome. One more note. To prove with a lot of the videos that you all have seen here today, Unite and the House, many others, out of 300 assessments, 2 people, that is all, just 2, did not pass the pre-employment drug screen. There is success in Eastern Kentucky on that alone. The outpouring of support for Silver Liner has been truly overwhelming and humbling for me and my family. We have had so many people that have helped us, reached out with anything that they can do, and there's no way I could possibly name them all, but however, there are some that I would like to acknowledge. Jeff Whitehead and the staff at EKSEP have been instrumental. The first day after the announcement, in the first week, Trish Adams walked into my office and said, "You need me. You have to have me." I didn't know that. I thought she was not right, but she was right. Her and her staff are second to none. Anyone in our region, anyone looking to come to our region, that should be one of your first phone calls. Everyone at Hazard Technical College has been absolutely tremendous. Randy Bowling, I think there's a lot of gentlemen standing back and say he will turn you into one fine individual. He will work with you and stay as late and come as early as you want. A lot of those gentlemen came at 1 o'clock in the day and stayed till 9, 10 o'clock at night. Scott Linkus, Big Sandy Technical College, the same. Superior person. Put a lot of extra time in to make these guys develop the skills that they needed. City of Pikeville, what can I say? First people I spoke to, first people go to bat for me. They have been there from the beginning, 110%, helping me with this project. Mayor Carter, the commissioners, Bob Shirtliff, Pat McNamee, Kim Downing, Steve Hartsock, Sean Cochran, thank you. Secretary Snavely, thank you and your staff for seeing the potential growth and jobs creations in the reclaimed mine sites. Congressman Rogers, owe my life to you, as well as everyone else in Eastern Kentucky. Your dedication to our region and your commitment to do everything that you do for Eastern Kentucky. This is only one of your projects. Can't thank you enough. The people of Eastern Kentucky are grateful for your many years of service. Governor Bevins, thank you for your support, you and your administration. I know that you believe in the revitalization in Eastern Kentucky is a key to our great Commonwealth being competitive on a world stage. I know you joke about not having a favorite region in the state, but I think we know better. I could not have done this full support of my family, my wife, a wonderful mother for my children, Cash and Emma, and a great business partner, as well as all the team at Silverliner. I want to personally thank you. We have very few people. We're growing every day. We're in small, tight accommodations for the amount of people that we have, and they do a whole lot of work for such a great few. Thank you, everyone.
There's a fund that's been in existence for many years now, the Abandoned Mine Lands Fund, where operators of coal mines would pay into that fund a certain amount of money per ton of coal that they mine. However, that money is just laying there. It's like $4 billion. I had the idea, and we put it into a bill called Reclaim, to bring more of that money out of the Abandoned Mine Lands Fund for projects not just to reclaim land, but to reclaim land for commercial use. I just earmarked in the funding bill for the federal government for 2016 some $25 million out of the general treasury as a pilot project to demonstrate this idea of reclaiming land for the purpose of creating jobs.
Just during our administration, we have utilized $30 million, and we've been using it in a very focused, laser-like, very intentional way. As opposed to spreading it out a mile wide and an inch thick, we're being very focused. The very first project that comes to mind is in Bell County. It's the Elk Wildlife Viewing Center. This is an unbelievable project, 12,000 acres of reclaimed mine land. The second program that comes to mind is the eCommie program. This is a program where we're retraining thousands of laid-off mine workers and folks out of jobs that aren't there now, but the skills are still there. The third project that comes to mind is the Kentucky Enterprises Industrial Park in Pikeville. This was money that was used to build spec manufacturing sites, and the very first tenant has already signed up, Silverliner, but they are building custom tanker trucks that are manufactured for use on multiple fronts all over the world. The fourth and final pilot grant project that comes immediately to mind is the East Park Infrastructure and Development Project in Greenup County. And this is a $4 million AML investment into the 1,000-acre business park. Benefits a number of counties: Boyd, Carter, Elliott, Greenup, Lawrence. North to south, we have incredible opportunities before us.
What we've tried to do with this program is make investments rather than spending. So we're focused on trying to create jobs, create sustainable enterprises that if we look at this 10 or 20 years down the road, we can be proud of what we did, that the money was well spent and that there was a proven benefit for the economy of the area.
As I say, over these last 3 years, 16, 17, and 18, we were able to bring home $80 million to Kentucky to use for these projects, things like this. But it has the effect of causing localities to be thinking about what can we do to improve the economy in our community, our county. And there's money available now through these pilot projects to let them experiment, if you will, and develop their ideas to create better jobs and a better way of life in East Kentucky.
I'm grateful to Congressman Rogers, to the AML program itself, and I would have the people of Kentucky know we are being good stewards of these monies, and we are making sure that they are being spent where we will get a great return on our investment. We are Kentucky.
Hello again. We've come to the portion of the day that is going to be the announcement portion, and if you can see, we have several fine guests with us here on stage, and each of them will be doing presentations that we hope everyone will enjoy. Our first guest is Mr. Tim Thomas. He's co-chair of the Appalachian Regional Commission. He's the 12th person to serve in that role. He works daily to create economic development and opportunities in Appalachia. He has more than 20 years of experience in public infrastructure, workforce training issues, and regulatory issues. He served in Senator McConnell's staff. He served in Governor Fletcher's administration. He has been executive director of the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority. He also has his undergraduate degree from Murray State University and law degree from the University of Louisville. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Tim Thomas.
Well, thank you, Kim, for that kind introduction, but what an amazing gathering of enthusiastic, optimistic people working together to change the narrative of Appalachia. Before I go further, I do want to recognize my friend Ann Hazlitt, head of USDA Rural Development, and welcome Ann to my home state. Ann is doing a great job for rural America, and she is a true friend of Appalachia and of Kentucky. She is a terrific partner for ARC. We work together closely, and we appreciate her being here and USDA's work and investment in the region. And I'd like to thank Governor Bevin and Congressman Rogers for their leadership in SOAR and for their vision for a strong Kentucky. This is part of the reason we are here today. And thank you, Congressman Rogers, for working to ensure that ARC has the tools it needs to meet the evolving challenges of Appalachia. You are our champion in that regard. Thank you, sir. Now, this is my first time at a SOAR Summit. I've been told to expect a conference marked by energy, innovation, and creativity, and I can see why. From my first days as the new federal co-chair of the Appalachian Regional Commission, I heard about SOAR. I heard about how Jared and Josh and the rest of the team took on a never say never philosophy when considering Eastern Kentucky's possibilities. You will be so impressed with them, I heard. They are shining examples of collaboration and innovation, everyone said. So one of my first trips as ARC federal co-chair was to come to Pikeville to visit with Jared and SOAR leadership. I wanted to see firsthand what the relationship between SOAR and ARC looked like. I wanted to understand how it was working and what were we, SOAR, and Eastern Kentucky getting for our ongoing investments. It only took a few minutes for me to see that everything I had been hearing was absolutely true. I'm seeing SOAR's uncanny ability to bring people and ideas together to foster partnerships that will make a difference in Eastern Kentucky. I'm hearing about SOAR's belief that there is a future in Appalachia, and that future is premised on everyone doing their part. So I'm proud of the long-standing and deep relationship between ARC and SOAR as we implement success. That's why today I am pleased to announce that ARC is pledging a $100,000 investment in SOAR's continued good work, which will be used for operational support. This investment will continue to work towards our common goals of economic prosperity in Eastern Kentucky and throughout Appalachia. As ARC's new federal co-chair, my 3 top priorities for the Commission are shared by SOAR. First is to continue developing a culture of Appalachian entrepreneurship. There is no good reason that the next world-class entrepreneur can't come from Appalachia, or better yet, from our shared home state of Kentucky. He or she may be here today for all we know, coming up with the next idea to change the world. To support our entrepreneurs, we must be able to provide them with the resources to succeed. That not only includes access to capital, it also means access to people and services that will help them thrive. This has been a common shared theme between SOAR and ARC and will continue. Indeed, we are working on some new resources for Appalachia's entrepreneurs that we plan to release in the next few months. Second is our joint commitment to revitalizing our coal-impacted communities. Eastern Kentucky, as you know, has taken a disproportionate hit as the coal industry evolves. I don't have to tell you how our local economies have been so interwoven with coal. SOAR has been an extraordinary partner in ARC's Power Initiative to diversify our coal-impacted communities. To date, ARC has awarded $94 million through the Power Initiative to help coal-impacted communities in 250 Appalachian counties diversify and grow their economies. These investments are projected to create or retain almost 8,800 jobs, leverage an additional $210 million in investment, and prepare thousands of workers and students with globally competitive skills and opportunities in the region's manufacturing, technology, entrepreneurship, agriculture, and other emerging sectors. With the support of Governor Bevin and Congressman Rogers, coupled with your belief that there is a future in Appalachia, and with the good ideas you have presented us, ARC has been able to invest in a diverse portfolio of economic development projects in Kentucky. This includes the new Kentucky School of Optometry, a few blocks away from here at U-Pike. This program offers state-of-the-art training on the latest technology to prepare the next generation of medical specialists who will literally be helping our friends and neighbors see better. It includes support for EKSEP to develop a market-ready, skilled tech workforce that is as competitive and well-trained as coders coming from Silicon Valley. It includes support for FAHI's compelling and innovative approach to addiction recovery by focusing on skill development and employment pathways. It includes support to develop the country's biggest elk reserve at the Appalachian Wildlife Center in Corbin, a project poised to propel the state's tourism industry. Now, we will soon be announcing nearly $30 million of additional power investments in the region's coal-impacted communities, each of which will continue to bring new jobs and opportunities. The third priority that I want to talk about hits us on a more personal level. I'm talking about the region's drug epidemic. A sad but true fact is that every one of us has a friend, neighbor, colleague, or relative who has been personally touched by the epidemic. It is not only impacting our families, it is also preventing our economy from thriving. That's why we can no longer consider this someone else's problem. I know this is an important issue to Congressman Rogers. He has been a stalwart leader, sounding the alarm about the opioid epidemic in Kentucky and Appalachia before anyone else. Heeding Congressman Rogers' call, ARC has been a longtime partner with Unite and its efforts to address the region's drug crisis. We are proud of that partnership. But there's more that we can do. As economic developers and as community leaders, we need to take the drug issue head on. Research tells us that one of the key anchors for successful personal recovery is employment. I've been traveling the region to learn more about what is working in our communities as they develop stronger pathways to employment for those in recovery, and how we at ARC can help. While the opioid epidemic unfortunately began in Appalachia, there is no reason solutions can't come from our region as well, solutions we can share with the rest of the country. Despite this challenge, like you, I believe there is a future in Appalachia. Indeed, everywhere I go, especially in eastern Kentucky, I see private sector investments, regional collaborations, innovative partnerships, and workforce opportunities. I see creativity, energy, and optimism. Much of this has to do with SOAR's leadership and vision. This makes me bullish on Appalachia. If Appalachia were a stock, I would buy it because I believe it is an undervalued asset. I want to thank you for having me here. I look forward to coming back to see the continued progress Eastern Kentucky is making and seeing more of what the good work of all of you is making possible. Thank you for the honor of speaking to you today.
Our next guest is someone who really doesn't need an introduction because she's already spoken to us earlier, and that is Ann Hazlitt, who is here speaking for the Secretary for Rural Development.
Well, we have some exciting announcements that we'd like to share about investment that we'll be making in Eastern Kentucky. And in order to assist me in doing that, I've asked Ms. Hilda Legg to join me on the stage. Hilda needs no introduction here in Kentucky, but she is our State Director for Rural Development. Hilda.
Thank you, and we are so excited. Thank you. I am so excited this morning to have my boss, Ann Hazlitt, with us from Washington, D.C. She has been excited to see you guys, and so we would just ask that she and Congressman Rogers come to the center stage to help us announce the applications for fighting opioid misuse in Kentucky. Ladies and gentlemen, Kentucky had received 12 applications. We were second in the nation, only congressman to California in terms of our awards. I am pleased today to tell you that we are announcing $1,575,590 for Kentucky to fight opiate abuse, and 7 of those 12 are in the SOAR region because of the leadership of Ann Hazlitt. So let's meet those awardees. Pathways, joining me on stage is Dr. Kimberly McClanahan and Shauna Lee Applegate. They're the clinical coordinator for Rowan County, and Dr. McClanahan is the chief executive officer. Pathways proudly serves as a community-based organization for mental health, prevention and treatment of alcohol and other addictions, services for individuals with disabilities. Grant money will be used for equipment, outpatient centers across the Commonwealth to assist opioid misuse counseling and behavioral health. Included in this award is Montgomery County, $31,160, Elliott County, $37,990, Pathways in Louisa, $39,900, in Grayson, $44,570, in Rowan County, $77,400, Sandy Hook had set $37,990. Congratulations to Pathways. The next award will be to West Care, Kentucky. Joining me on stage is Stephen Wright, the Regional Director for West Care. The grant will be used to purchase equipment, beds, and a vehicle for the Judy Patton Center for Families in Elkhorn City, Kentucky, right here in Pike County. The center will provide professional, licensed, gender-specific programming for women seeking recovery from substance abuse and will provide a safe environment for their children throughout the therapeutic program. What a wonderful project. Congratulations, West Care, and thank you for serving Kentucky. Next to the podium would be Jeff Schote. Jeff Schote is the president of Foothills Academy. Jeff will receive $89,700 grant. Foothills Academy is committed to providing a safe environment for youth, encouraging and promoting values and behavior. At this facility, the ages of the young men are 13 to 18. They'll receive therapeutic services, individual counseling. They are very, very active in drug and alcohol counseling and also along with anger and behavior management. The grant will purchase vehicles and welding equipment to provide instruction and job opportunities for these troubled young men. Congratulations, Judge Schote. Fantastic. Next on stage is Mark LaPlante. Mark is the CEO and the founder of Isaiah House. He is receiving a $452,000 grant and $452,000 loan, $150,000 grant. They focus on a holistic approach for the clients in the addiction recovery process, the clients and the families. This rural development investment will be used to purchase equipment, business assets, and the remaining inventory of existing metal business. Then they will take that business and train their recovery clients to learn a trade and help them get a job, Congressman, and that's what we've been talking about. Joining Mark on this presentation is Kevin Horn, the Vice President for Programs, and Mike Cox, the President. Congratulations, Isaiah House. Next coming to the stage will be Magoffin County. Dr. Pete Shepard is the Public Health Director and does double duty. He is the mayor of the city of Salyersville. Joining him will be Carolyn Isaacs, the registered nurse for the health department. We are excited to announce that this rural development investment of $72,170 will be a mobile opioid health clinic that will travel around to bring the services to the clients. And we know transportation is always such a barrier in Eastern Kentucky. A patient will have access to medication, counseling, needle exchange, relapse prevention training, and basic health screenings. Congratulations to Magoffin County. And now we have a very special award. I'm going to ask Mark LaPlante, the Chief Executive Officer and founder again of Isaiah House, and President Mike Cox, and Andy Ayers, who is the Vice President of Operations, to once again join Secretary Hazlett and Congressman Rogers. We have heard so many times that transitional housing, a place for folks who are in recovery to go to find a safe place instead of going back to their old habits and their old communities and their own friends, where they can receive continued support. That safe place as they integrate back into a workforce or back into school. So Secretary Hazlett became dogged after our May opioid roundtable here in Berea, Kentucky, about trying to find a partner to help us with our transitional housing goal. We at USDA Rural Development make home loans. Many of you know about the Rural Development Housing Program. We make those loans, and sometimes folks can't simply make that loan payment, and those houses go back into an auction status. This is where we looked for a partner. And we hope that this pilot, the very first one in the United States of America in all of USDA rural development, the very first one, we found a partner with Mark LaPlante and the Isaiah House. This is very exciting news. We'll be doing the actual signing of the deed and the documents, transferring it from USDA to Isaiah House on the second floor. And at 12:30, you're all welcome to join us at that event as well. But Rural Development is partnering with them. This official is the first, one, and only, and we look to have more. So I hope all of you will begin to think about how you can become a partner with USDA Rural Development and create a safe and affordable home where our people can receive job training and support as they transition back into society. Give a great round of applause to the Isaiah House for this first award. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for your support. USDA Rural Development is here to partner with you in all of the endeavors to grow jobs and create opportunity in our beloved Eastern Kentucky in the SOAR region. Thank you very much.
Well, as you can see, we've had another guest join us on the podium, and I think we're good and ready to go. I'm going to turn it back over to Congressman Hal Rogers, who is going to have some very good news for us, and I know he's excited to talk to all of you.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. And we are joined on stage by our illustrious leader, the governor. Thank you for coming. He just got back from a trade mission to Japan, Korea, wherever else. And he just got back, and his clock is so messed up he doesn't know where he is. But we're delighted that he's here, and you'll be hearing from him shortly. When we survey the depth and width of our efforts through SOAR, we would fall shorter than the marks that we've made without the support of our federal partners, especially the Appalachian Regional Commission and USDA's Rural Development. Their investments are deeply appreciated, and we promise to be good stewards of the funding that you've planted in our communities. The Economic Development Administration has also invested millions of federal dollars to help us educate and train our workforce for new industry opportunities. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, the EDA announced a $2.5 million grant for the Kentucky Community and Technical College System that will be shared between the campuses at Big Sandy, Hazard, and the Southeast Kentucky campus in Middlesboro. The funding will fast-track new programs on each campus focused on advanced manufacturing training programs and is expected to create 261 new jobs. The key to these grant-funded projects are the relationships that are often developed between the public and private sector. I'm honored to announce today that Toyota Tsusho is leveraging this federal funding to make a $30,000 investment of its own at the Southeast Kentucky Community Technical College to launch an advanced manufacturing maker space at the Middlesboro campus. Students and small businesses will have the opportunity to be mentored by top leaders within Toyota Tsusho and gain the advanced training and guidance they need to prepare for jobs that are high in demand within the advanced manufacturing industry. Would our friends from Toyota Tsusho please stand so that we can recognize you? Yes, thank you so much. George Pierce, Senior Vice President and General Counsel. Matthew Nunn, General Manager. We want to thank you for your great support. Thank you. I'd also like to ask that all the presidents of our community colleges, would you stand and let us recognize you? All the presidents of the community colleges. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I know our student population has been in fluctuation as a ripple effect of the war on coal. We want to applaud your perseverance and your ability to reinvent the way we educate and train our workforce and our future leaders. These community colleges are on the front lines, and they're making a great difference. Several years ago, I received countless visits and phone calls from local leaders concerned about the stark reduction of coal severance funds. And school leaders have pleaded for help as more and more students have been forced to transfer as a result of their parents moving to find work. So 3 years ago, I developed the Abandoned Mine Lands Pilot Grant Program to fast-track federal funding to communities hit hardest by the downturn of the coal industry. I first filed a bill called the Reclaim Act to try to get at monies that are sitting idle in the Abandoned Mine Lands Fund in Washington, D.C., with a total of roughly $4 billion that's been accumulated over the years by coal companies paying in a fee per ton of coal mined. But the fee was not being used. So I filed a bill called Reclaim, which would take $1 billion out of that trust fund to be used to reclaim abandoned mines so long as the property would be used to create jobs, economic development. The Reclaim Act is going to take a long time to pass. So 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I just earmarked monies in the federal Treasury to fast track that program and give us a test bed to see how the grant program would work. And to date, Eastern Kentucky has been awarded $80 million through that pilot program, with another $30 million in the budget for 2019, waiting for approval, which I think it will be. And I want to commend especially the governor and Secretary Snavely for developing a way for communities to competitively apply for funding from that kitty of money, and for selecting projects that will make the greatest impact across our region. The monies that we earmark goes directly to the state, and they then respond to applications for grants for projects in our region. And they've done a great job, and I want to thank them for doing that great job. And we will be hearing from them shortly. And I wonder if they would just join me, both of them, the Secretary and the Governor, would join me at the lectern, because it's hard to hear from those chairs. And I want them to hear. Over a dozen of our counties have already been awarded funding through the AML Pilot Grant Program. Today, we're proud to announce $10.5 million has been awarded for 2 new projects. The first grant is $4.5 million for a major waterline extension project that will serve 100 new residents in Letcher County, as well as the future federal prison that will soon be built at Roxana. The prison will create over 300 good-paying jobs for our region, so the infrastructure work is vital to the construction of that facility. Some of our friends from Letcher County are here today. I think Mark Lewis from the Water District, and Alan Bowman and Stephen Caudle from Bell Engineering. Would you all stand up so we can recognize you? Yes, thank you. Thank you. The second grant is $6 million for the city of Pikeville to build a new 60,000 square foot facility for Interblue, as well as the site prep work required. The Kentucky Enterprise Industrial Park will soon be Interblue's new home, just a few miles down the road, right here in Pike County. Interblue will be putting 875 people to work at its new advanced lithium battery manufacturing facility with an average pay of $39 an hour. Some of our friends from Interblue are here today. Please stand. Let us thank you for being a great company and bringing those jobs to Pike County. Would you stand for us, please? Interblue, thank you. On that same note, Interblue is investing over $400 million in our region. We're grateful to call them our new neighbors, and they're friendly neighbors. I've said it time and again, our best resource in eastern Kentucky is our people. And Interblue has clearly been impressed with the skilled workforce that we have available. And if you talk to them, they will tell you that one of the main reasons they chose here was because of SOAR and the work that you're doing and the kind of hope that you're inspiring. And that's the kind of new citizens that we like to have in here. When you examine every person who's been on stage today, it's a testament to the nonpartisan, multi-level partnerships that are required for success. We can't do this with federal or state funding alone. And you can't keep up the enormous challenges at the grassroots level without support. So let me applaud this entire concerted effort to keep up the fight for our hometowns and for a 21st century Appalachia. Our best days are ahead of us. Secretary Snavely has invested countless hours sorting through the applications that you've made and meeting with local leaders to find projects that will employ the most people and make the most sense for eastern Kentucky. Secretary Snavely, we deeply appreciate your work on the pilot grant program, and we want you to say a few words to us. And Governor, we want you to close out the summit in a few minutes. Secretary Snavely.
Thank you, Congressman. I need to say first, thank you for providing us this opportunity, and I want to thank the governor who's given us the freedom to be bold and to try to find good projects for the region. But I do need to tell the truth, is that this process that we've undertaken with the AML pilot program involves not only the Energy and Environment Cabinet, it also involves the Tourism Cabinet, it involves the Department for Local Government, and it involves the Economic Development Cabinet. So 4 different state agencies are involved in this cooperating. Apparently that's historic, but we didn't realize that, so we just worked together, and we worked with Congressman Rogers' office in trying to find projects that are impactful and, more importantly, transformative in order to diversify the economy of eastern Kentucky. I've been in, I'm from Prestonsburg. I've been in the coal industry for 40 years, and that entire time we've always talked about the need to diversify the economy, but we've never been able to do it. And I think that's what we're trying to do now. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. When this governor came into office, I was thrilled that he was so interested in what we're doing with SOAR. He is a true blue Eastern Kentuckian, and we appreciate his constant mindfulness of what you're doing in the SOAR organization and in the communities that are served by the grant program that the Secretary and the Governor approve. We are delighted that he is with us again. We are sort of unofficial co-chairs of this organization. We are behind you 1,000%. We want to help you achieve your goals. And I could not have a better partner in his dedication to Eastern Kentucky and to the success of SOAR than this great governor. So would you welcome to Eastern Kentucky again our great governor, Governor Bevin.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be back here. Thank you. I can't see you, so you can stand up, sit down, check your phones, do whatever you got to do. It's a little bright up here, but thank you for taking the time to be here this morning. It was what a beautiful morning as the fog began to lift in all the different hollers as you've made your way here from different areas. Just a stunning time of the year and a beautiful place to be. I do want to speak to you for a few moments, and I will do that. But before I do, I want to make an announcement as well. And so in fairness to those that I'm going to ask to join me, let's do that now. If I could ask Senator Brandon Smith, if you could make your way up here, and Chris Fugit, Representative Chris Fugit, if you could make your way up here. And I don't know if Judge Alexander is here from Perry County. If you are, please make your way up here as well. And Jimmy Ray Linden, who is the mayor of Hazard, if you could make your way up here, if you happen to be here, that'd be great. Come up on stage here, and we want to make just another announcement, an example of the kind of thing where good things are happening and continuing to happen. These guys, I do want you to know, both in the Senate and in the House, these people work tirelessly on your behalf. They truly do. They represent you well, not just in name, not just when they're running for office, but when they're in Frankfurt advocating for you, they make things happen. And I'm not sure that the other two gentlemen are able to be with us today, but this is an announcement with an ARC grant that's going to be applied specifically into Perry County. And I want to have these guys here to join me in celebrating something that they and so many others have been working to help make possible. This ARC grant, these grants have been used historically throughout the years around this region of our state and in surrounding states throughout Appalachia. But we have, as was noted by Secretary Snavely a moment ago, started to be much more focused, much more intentional as to how and where these dollars are being used. They're being used less and less for political reasons. I mean, they really, sometimes there seems to be politics involved in these things, but the whole purpose of them is to get a good return on the investment. And the investment is, frankly, taxpayers. That's who's funding this at the end of the day. This may be a federal or regional grant coming from federal dollars, but heck, it's your dollars. It's our dollars. We're the ones paying for it. It just comes back to us. How can we be the best stewards of that? So it gives me great joy to announce the fact that we're going to be investing $1.254 million. So $1,254,000, 320 to be exact, dollars that are going to be invested into Perry County, specifically for the purpose of developing water lines, sanitary sewer lines, gas lines, helping us to produce the kind of infrastructure necessary to develop a 30-acre site at the edge of town, where there's going to be more opportunity for the types of announcements that you've just heard mentioned happening in this community to be happening in that community as well. So gentlemen, thank you for what you all have done, and thank you very much to Sandy Donahue and her team with Department of Local Government, and to the folks at ARC for entrusting us with these dollars. We will be good stewards of this $1.25 million. Thank you. Thanks, guys. I will keep my comments fairly brief because you all have been here, for a bit, and we want a chance to visit some of those that are, bringing exhibits here and talking about the projects that they have going on here. Congressman Rogers made a comment a moment ago about how the future is bright and that things are happening here. Do you feel this? I hope you do. I mean, how many of you truly believe that the best days in Eastern Kentucky are those that are unfolding right before us right now? We had a board meeting with the SOAR board a couple weeks ago. It's a little rough when you get introduced as being the guy who's sitting on the end who doesn't know where he is or what time. And it's kind of thanks for that introduction. But it's kind of true, though. Yesterday morning, I was in Seoul, Korea, doing some media and some business meetings prior to hopping on a flight and coming back. Had a couple as soon as I landed of additional meetings in Louisville. and then here we are here. So it is kind of all over the world. I mean, how blessed we are to live in a world where things are that expedient. There was a time not long ago when regions of America and regions of the world, like the one we are in, were seen as somehow off the beaten path. But quite literally, I was meeting with people yesterday morning on the other side of the world, talking about a company also in the energy space, also looking to make investments of up to $3 billion in the U.S. in phases, $1 billion at a time. They may or may not come to Kentucky, but we are working hard to make sure that they do. These are the kind of things that are possible that didn't seem to be possible just even a few short years ago. These are the kind of things that it's exciting for me as the governor to be able to go and represent on your behalf, to be able to tell people about this extraordinary gem that we have, this stunning thing called Kentucky, called Eastern Kentucky, the work ethic, the values, the pride that people take. It's extraordinary. I was helping earlier in northeastern Kentucky. I was up just outside of Moorhead, celebrating the 100th anniversary of Hinton Mills, a company that has been dedicated to serving farmers in the northeastern part of this state for 100 years, and their growth potential and their excitement as they celebrate their centennial. It's fun to see when things are really working, and indeed that when the future really is bright ahead. If you remember, how many of you, and I'll try to shade my eyes and see, how many of you were here on that cold winter day? I believe it was in December. It was either December or maybe early January of 2014, 15. I guess it was actually 13. December of 2013, the very first SOAR Summit. How many of you all were here? So a number of you. Excellent. You know what's encouraging to me is I'll bet you, unless you're being shy and not raising your hand, that was maybe 15 to 20% of the people here. Many of you were not here on that day. But for those of you, which is fine, what this tells me is that we're getting newer people coming to this equation. And for those of you that were here, remember the nature of that conversation. It was an all day long or the better part of a day type of a presentation from this stage. And the people that were on this stage and the people who did most of the speaking were not from Kentucky. They were people from other places like the Iron Range in northern Michigan and places like this where they had seen a downturn in their economy and they were coming to bring us hope. And this place was even more packed at that time. And the irony was, when things were more bleak, when the times were darker and hope seemed to be farther away, if it even existed, then the sense of concern was high on the part of people in this community and in this region. The place was packed out with people hoping for a glimmer of hope. And now, as you are seeing and hearing in just 5 short years, we are seeing the culmination of all of the ideas that Congressman Rogers really had when he launched this thing just a handful of years ago. And now we're not just talking about hypotheticals. We're not just listening to other people tell us, hey, this could in fact happen. Things are actually happening. The old adage, which has then become a truism in many respects and famously worked into speeches by people like Abraham Lincoln, and now to the point that it's the motto of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, which is united we stand, and divided we fall, is so true indeed. And I want to thank each and every one of you, especially those of you who came to that very first one, and probably most, if not all of you who came to that first one and are here today have probably been to each of them along the way. I hope you're feeling a change in momentum. There's fewer people who are able to come here because there's more and more people that are working. We still have a lot of upside potential, a lot of wood to be chopped. But we are making extraordinary strides. And I want to thank each of you for being part of the process, for believing enough to be here, for pouring in. I'll close with this comment. I want to challenge you, actually, to continue to be emissaries, to truly believe that our best days are ahead, not just when asked, not just when prompted, not just in a situation like this, but to go out and exude it, to talk to people, to find ways that you can make it come to fruition. I wish you could be with me in all of the meetings that I have literally all over the world. If you think about this, in the history of Kentucky, the most private capital that we had ever had invested in our state in a single year was $5.1 billion, which is a lot of money. $5.1 billion had been invested in Kentucky in the best year we had ever seen. Last year, that was prior to just a couple years ago, the last couple years we've seen a remarkable difference, and in partial measure because of folks like you. People like Chuck Sexton, who represents a whole series of counties in the eastern part of the state, who I run into Chuck all over the world as he and I and others are out representing these communities and representing the Commonwealth as a whole. Last year we had over $9.2 billion in a single year, nearly double the best year we had ever previously had. We've had $16 billion worth of announcements, actually just short and about to be quite a bit over, $16 billion in capital investment in Kentucky in the last 2.5 years. We've never had a 4-year period in any time in our history to have even close to that much. We're shattering economic development records. Why? Because we're taking our story to the world. We're not waiting, sitting around, hoping for some handout from somebody somewhere or hoping that somebody here somehow stumbles onto something. We're being proactive and intentional. And it's exciting. It's being driven by those in this community. You remember in that very first SOAR Summit, there were breakout sessions and people were talking about different ways in which the community could come in and get involved. Well, now you are involved. And so my challenge to you is to continue to be emissaries in your own way, in your own space, challenging one another to believe like you've never believed before, to be optimistic and positive, to go and travel and bring to the world an understanding of all the incredible things that we have here. I literally have the CEO of a major company, a major global brand, that's going to be flying in here this weekend, Labor Day weekend, because he wants to spend time prior to sitting down with his board later in the week, where, knock on wood, it would seem that we're on track to have another $650 million investment being made. It's not in this region, but trust me, it's good for this state. This whole state is being buoyed by what's good in the east is good in the west and everywhere in between. And I want you to hear it, to know it, and to believe it, to truly believe it, and to be proud of it. The work ethic, the values, who we are. It's a tremendous compliment for me to have the congressman say that like an Eastern Kentucky blue blood, or true blue, I think were his words. Kind of a difference between true blue and blue blood, I guess. But Eastern Kentucky true blue, well, you all know I'm not originally from Eastern Kentucky, but I have a tremendous kindred spirit with the people of Eastern Kentucky. I've shared with you before, but having grown up in a poor, rural, mountainous community, I appreciate where jobs are scarce. And when industry folds, it doesn't come back easily. And unemployment is high, and there's rampant drug problems, and there's a discouragement that seems to always be right at the edge of the door. I feel in many respects as if I'm home every time I come back through these mountain gaps, because it's so similar to where I was raised. It's why I am so excited about what's starting to change. We are in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, in our lifetimes, for the vast majority of us in this room, we are going to see a transformation in Eastern Kentucky, the likes of which we have only dreamed about and thought about and hoped for. And it's now happening because of folks like you, because of those on this stage, others that you've heard from, and others that you will hear from. I want to thank you again. I want to challenge you again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing. Take it out there. I want you to humor me with something before I sit down. I'm gonna ask you to repeat with me, with great enthusiasm, if you truly believe it to be true, that united we stand and divided we fall. I want you to say that with me, if you would. United we stand, divided we fall. Say it again. United we stand, divided we fall. If you truly believe it, if you truly embody it, then our best days are indeed yet to come. Thank you, and God bless you.
That is going to be the end of the formal program for today. We do have lunch for everyone in the concession areas. There will be music in here. The booths are open. But before you leave, would everyone please stand and with me give a great hand of applause to all these government officials here on the stage that are doing so much for Eastern Kentucky. I'm glad you showed up.
No, you're fine. Lunch is sponsored by Kentucky Proud.
Jared says lunch is sponsored by Kentucky Proud, but I was looking for him anyway. This is the guy that's put this summit together, and I think we owe him a great hand of applause. Thanks, Jared. Is there anything else we need to know?
I'm going to announce, so Kentucky Proud sponsored lunch, a lot of locally sourced stuff in it, the meats for sure. They've got a basket here we're giving away to Chance Moore, so if you're here, we'll get you that. I hope everyone's had a great time. The booths are open. Lunch is getting ready to start. Bobby Osborne, the bluegrass legend, is going to be playing in just a few minutes. So come back, enjoy lunch, enjoy the music, and sponsored by CMH 23. Thank you to UK Healthcare, Pikeville Medical Center, our presenting partners making this happen. Everybody have a great day, a great Labor Day weekend. We believe there's a future in Appalachia. There's proof. Next year we'll have more proof. Thank you.
So the future of Appalachia is bright, and it's not because we have to change anything in particular about Appalachia. We just have to expose Appalachia, and we have to expose the richness, the history of Appalachia, and the people.
Just knowing that I can work here now, I will plan to be here for the rest of my life.
We're going to lower the addiction rate, get Appalachia strong again, get our people back in control of their lives.
We can stay here in Appalachia, the mountains that we love. We can make it a place that we can all enjoy and grow.
You know, you can make your dreams whatever you want. You just have to, you have to go for it. So
having a stable economy to actually grow from, to grow with.
We have as good, if not better, than any system in the country. So there's no reason why we can't do anything that anybody else can do, and better than most can do.
Instead of being an automatic setback for a person born into this area, it turns into an automatic springboard.
We here in Eastern Kentucky can be a huge part of what's going on globally.
The future is ours. It's what we make it.
I think that we have so much more hope that we didn't have before.
There's a movement that's bringing with it economic prosperity, and I'm a person that believes, because of all these great partners that are assembled here today, that Eastern Kentucky's best days are ahead of us, not behind us. Innovation.
Possibility.
Connectivity.
Promising.
Exciting.
Blossoming.
Bright.
Rising.
It's here.
Abundance.
Revolutionary.
Hope. I think there's hope for Appalachia.